I can see everybody, though. It helps us, even though you guys are looking at the back of it. So when we're looking up here, it's amazing how much better we can see when we've got it in front of us. So hopefully everybody adjusts to it. But welcome for those that are in the room and those that are online. You are at the Nampa City Council meeting. And we have a wonderful tradition, and that is that we have local pastors and leaders open us in prayer. And this evening we have the privilege of having Pastor Dan Manjak and Liz's wife and the boys here to open us in prayer. And so, Pastor Dan, let's go for it.
Mayor, thank you, City Council. I wanted to read just a couple verses from 1 Timothy chapter 2. First of all, then I urge that supplications, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings be made for all people, for kings and all who are in high positions, and the mayor and city council too, that we may lead a peaceful and quiet life, godly and dignified in every way. This is good. It is pleasing in the sight of God, our Savior, who desires that all people be saved and come to the knowledge of the truth. For there is one God, and there is one mediator between God and men, the man Jesus Christ, who gave himself as a ransom for many, which is a good testimony, which is the testimony given at the proper time. Join me in prayer. So, dear Heavenly Father, we just come before you, Lord, in these chambers where the city's business is conducted and decisions are made on our city's future are made. We bless everyone here. We bless our mayor. We bless Jim, her husband, Lord, and her family. We also pray for the city council people, Lord, and their spouses and families, Lord. We know it's not easy to serve, and you gave us the example that it's better to serve, like your example, Lord Jesus, that you came not to be served, but to serve and be a ransom for many. And we thank you that in our city, we have godly leaders, those that respect the rule of law, those that have high morals, Lord Jesus, and integrity, and not just do it, in secret, but also out in the open, proclaiming in God they trust. So we bless them, Lord. We pray that even the business tonight, Lord, and all the things that they need to get done, be done in a way that is orderly and go well. And we pray your blessing upon our city. When I pray for our city, I constantly pray that it would be a city, a community of unity, a city that is set on a hill. We pray against darkness in any way. We pray, Lord, for evil to come down in our city at every level, and that righteousness and goodness and people would prosper, families would prosper, the church would prosper, the city would prosper, and that this would truly be a community of unity. We also thank you for all those who serve at every level in our city, from volunteer to mayor. We thank you for our first responders, Lord. We pray your blessing upon them. We pray also for our police and all the staff that keep the city moving forward. And we are so blessed to live in such a wonderful city that is like a city of refuge. So we thank you for all that you do. We bless today. We bless the meeting. We bless everyone that will bring their business forward. And we pray for righteous results, and that our city would continue to prosper in the future, and that families would prosper in this city. We thank you for all that you do. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. You want to do the Pledge of Allegiance? What? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Pastor Dan, thank you. Okay, boys, so I didn't get back to my office to get pins. Dan, do you have to? Oh, good, they're there. Okay, boys, come on up. Do you want a pin? Yeah. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you. There you go. You are welcome. Thank you for being here this evening and for your prayers. Thank you. Okay, let's begin with roll call.
Rodriguez.
Here.
Brunner.
Here.
Pingula.
Here.
Reynolds.
Here.
Haverfield.
Here.
Bauer.
Here.
All present.
Do we have any proposed amendments to the agenda? I don't have any suggested amendments, and seeing none, I would stand for a motion to approve our consent agenda as noted.
So, second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
Pingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
The next item on the agenda is the opportunity for citizens that would like to speak on an agenda or non-agenda item. And do we have anyone signed up this evening?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we have 2 individuals signed up. Our first speaker is Stephanie Bates, who is speaking on a non-agenda item.
Hi, Stephanie. Thank you for going ahead and saying your name again and giving us your address.
Name is Stephanie Bates at 1416 Garland Street in Nampa, 83686. Thank you for letting me address this opportunity. Dog ordinances and law ordinances. My neighbors to the right of me, when looking at mine and my boyfriend's home, have numerous complaints against them for having their dogs at large. The recent complaint was on August 26, 2022. They have more dogs than are allowed on their property and inside their homes without them being licensed or having a non-licensed kennel. And all, there have been 11 complaints against this family since I moved into my boyfriend's home back in July of 2013, with no actions from the Nampa Police Department other than verbal warnings, 2 citations, and 1 written warning to this family. The last incident on August 22nd involved a minor girl walking with her dog and walking outside. I went to record the incident, and she yelled at me to get my dogs. And I told her and explained to her they were not mine, but my neighbor's. So I called animal control because the neighbor's bulldog went chasing after the girl about halfway down the street. While she was walking her dog, and when she came back. I asked if she wanted to make a statement to the responding officers when they got to her home, but she did not. At this time, animal control showed up while the minor girl and her dog and our neighbor's dog were on the street in front of my home, and the neighbor's dog trying to mess with her dog. And then another dog, it was either a Chiweenie or Chihuahua, came onto our property. One of the officers did give the neighbors a citation for having dogs at large once more, but refused to take the dogs away. For this, I feel that dog laws need changing per residential properties to state that all dog owners must have their dogs leashed up or tied up if they are not behind a fence or be inside a fenced area and be inside their homes. These neighbors are not outside most of the time when their dogs are outside or within calling distance, and the dogs either run down the street chasing after people who are either walking or walking their own dogs, or they go to other people's property and do their duties there, pooping or peeing. I've seen this many times when my neighbors' dogs are on the loose. The current laws do not work, especially with our next door neighbors. Someone is going to get hurt, and per one of the reports, the officer responding almost got bit by 2 dogs, yet nothing was done about it. So I encourage you to try to change the residential dog laws, and that I don't kind of get why officers can't take the dogs off the property when they are being aggressive and almost biting officers as is. And I thank you for your time on this.
Stephanie, thank you for taking time to come. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Mayor
Madam Mayor.
Quinn, may I respond to Ms. Bates?
Typically, we don't. We just listen. So
Okay.
if you don't mind, but we do have her contact info, and you're welcome to reach out.
Okay, I think you have my card, so give me a call. We'll talk about it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Victor.
You're welcome.
Madam Mayor, our next speaker is Jay Snyder, and he'd like to speak on a non-agenda item.
Good evening, Jay.
Good evening, Mayor.
Thank you for sharing your name and address.
My
even though
name
we
is
know
Jay
you.
Snyder. I reside at 524 9th Avenue South here in Nampa. I've done so for the last 40 years. Mayor Kling, Council, I'm here tonight on behalf of the modular construction industry. While I am employed in that industry, I'm not here representing a specific company, but rather the industry as a whole. On March 18th of this year, the Department of Labor's Wage and Hour Division published proposed guidelines to amend regulations pertaining to the Davis-Bacon and related acts provision. The WHD published these guidelines as an effort to enforce a comprehensive regulatory review to provide greater clarification and enhance usefulness in the modern economy. These updates include changing the definition of site work by adding additional information about a secondary work site, particular to modular construction. Although labeled as an update to the current requirements to streamline the agency's enforcement and wage determinations, this is a significant change to the existing Davis-Bacon laws previously passed by Congress. As part of the modular manufacturing industry, I, along with my coworkers, depend on work from many sectors, including multifamily affordable housing projects where federal and state funds are used primarily through tax credits. In short, the protections from Davis-Bacon compliance for off-site and modular construction are stripped away with the changes to the definition of site work through the addition of new language, specifically secondary work site. The goal of this update seems to focus on severely limiting or eliminating the modular manufacturing industry's participation in any project that receives federal or state funding. These proposed changes will require any federal funded project where the modular unit is constructed in a manufacturing facility like what we have here in Nampa and Boise to pay equivalent wages to those individuals that are working on site. And for 90% of the projects that I work on, that site location is California. So I strongly oppose legislation to expand the Davis-Bacon regulations to off-site manufacturing because, quite simply, off-site manufacturing is clearly manufacturing and not construction. It's inappropriate to compare off-site manufacturing with construction because the nature of the jobs and the condition of the working environments are so drastically different. The public comment period for this proposed rule change closed on May 17th of this year, but I would encourage you as mayor and council members to reach out to our congressional representatives and ask them to vote no on any proposed changes to the Davis-Bacon law that includes the verbiage secondary work site. Please don't put manufacturing jobs here in Nampa at risk by not understanding this crucial distinction between site of work and secondary work site. I do have a copy of the letter that I sent to our representatives that I can leave with the clerk if you would so like. Thank you for your time.
Jay, thank you very much, and we would love to have a copy of that letter. Thank you. We will get that distributed to the council members and appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, for the record, we do have two individuals who had signed up, do not wish to speak, but it was for 1-4B, which was on the agenda consent. It looks like at least one of them was opposed. It was Anita Ward and Mark Albright.
Okay, so go ahead.
So that was just for the record. Other than that, we do not have anyone else signed up.
Is there anyone here that had intended to speak that did not get signed up this evening? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. We do have a proclamation this evening, and this is our Elevate Our Everyday Heroes Day that is coming up. Jackie Briggs is here this evening and will be coming forward as I read the proclamation. Whereas we recognize our law enforcement officers, our firefighters, our EMS, dispatchers, corrections, coroners, chaplains, retired first responders, healthcare workers, clinicians, military veterans, and their families as everyday heroes. And whereas these heroes put themselves in harm's way, protecting and serving our communities without hesitation. And whereas they are called to help, serve, protect, and save lives. And whereas their selfless work can take a great toll on their physical and mental health. And whereas over the past 5 years, we have seen a devastating upturn in the number of suicides among these professions. And whereas Idaho is currently tied for 50th in the United States for having the least amount of mental health and wellness resources. Whereas we recognize it is paramount for us as a community to surround our first responders, members of the military, our veterans and their families with love, respect, and the best resources available for them to maintain their mental health, wellness, and build resiliency. And whereas it has been shown that improving access to good mental health and wellness resources substantially affects their family's well-being, as well as the communities in which they serve. And whereas we honor and pay tribute to those who have been lost in the line of duty or died by suicide, as well as those who continue to keep the spirit of true heroism alive each day by serving as our everyday heroes. Now, therefore, I, Debbie Kling, Mayor of the City of Nampa, do hereby proclaim September 10th, 2022 to be Elevate Our Everyday Heroes Day. Jackie, thank you for joining us this evening and sharing kind of what the plans are. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Kling, and thank you, City Council, for doing this proclamation. This is the third year that you guys have done that. You guys were the first ones to do it, and I'm so proud that you guys were the ones that have been leading the way. Thank you so much for all of the efforts that you guys put in to help take care of our folks. Is there anyone else who is military, veteran, or spouse in the room? I know there's some, but they're just being shy.
Christian.
Thank you for your service.
And Todd? Yes,
Yep. Thank you for your service.
Senator Lakey.
Senator Lakey.
Okay. So my husband, I come here today. My name's Jackie Briggs. I reside in Cuna, but I spend a lot of my time over in Nampa. My second home is Elevate Mind Body Studios. So I'm here today representing Elevate Mind Body Studios, as well as our nonprofit that I have, Courageous Survival. Our nonprofit helps first responders, veterans, and their family members to connect with mental health and wellness resources. Back on the table in the back, and you guys have some copies of this. This is a resource guide. The first year we started this 3 years ago, well, I guess it was 2 years ago, and it was 16 pages. It's already gone up to 28, and we have resources across the state. We've been able to do outreach everywhere from the Duck Valley Indian Reservation all the way up to Lewiston, Clarkston, Coeur d'Alene, and we do quite a bit of work here as well. We have this resource guide. We've got peer support teams now. We have the largest peer support teams in the state of Idaho. We partner with Fraternal Order of Police, Professional Firefighters of Idaho, American Legion, and many other organizations as well. And of course, the city of Nampa has been very supportive. The police department has been very supportive as well. Chief Joe Huff. They've partnered with us on some trainings, some mental health and wellness and suicide intervention trainings. So I want to thank you guys for all that you're doing, because now, as of this year, there are 7 cities participating in proclaiming 9/11 as Elevate Our Everyday Heroes Day. So at Elevate, there will be free services, wellness cocoon sauna, red light, pain light, float pods. These services are phenomenal. The entire facility is free for first responders, veterans, and their spouse or significant other on 9/11. We have a huge resource fair. There'll be live music, band, American Legion's doing a tribute ceremony, honor guard, stuff like that. We've got speakers coming in from across the state, and I know that Councilman Rodriguez, Bruner, and Reynolds will be there to represent the city, since you are not able to be there, and I thank you for that. Family always comes first as well, and we'll be praying for you and your family. So that will be happening. The tribute is at 10, and but all day there'll be, like I said, resource fair, all kinds of resources. It's going to be an amazing event. But if you can't make it this Saturday, every week we meet with 3 to 15 different first responders, veterans, or their families down at Elevate. In fact, the owner, Brooke Taylor, is a part of our nonprofit. She's on our board. She's not able to be here today. She's on the school board as well. She does a ton for our community. So she's wanted me to say thank you on her behalf. But they're amazing. We meet with 3 to 15 different people every week down there, and we're able to give them a VIP tour. We have Marines doing tours for the guys because, you know, it's a spa, right, to a guy. But these float pods, these stuff, they really make a huge difference for anyone who's struggling. And so we're able to do that, and so I'm really grateful. So you guys have some phenomenal resources. I used to travel the country and do 2-day mental health and wellness trainings, and I would always look for a place like Elevate. I could not find one in Houston, Orlando, Seattle. You guys have it here in Nampa, and it is amazing. And so thank you guys. Make sure you come down and check it out.
And just to clarify, it is on Saturday, the 10th.
It is Saturday the 10th.
Normally, it's on 9/11, but this year it's on the 10th because of it falling on a Sunday. Correct.
Yes.
So it's Saturday at 10. And then here's your proclamation, just so you have
Yes,
it.
thank you.
Jackie, thank you so much. Thank you for all you do. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda, agency and commission reports, which we do not have, but we do have staff communications. And so I believe, Tom, we have a Public Works staff report.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. We got two parts to the staff report today. The first, I want to talk about 2nd Street South and 22nd Avenue South, seeing an increased level of traffic accidents at that location with failure to yield at the stop sign. We did an analysis and determined that there's some sight distance issues that on private property, that the best solution at this point would be to make that, convert that from a two-way stop to a four-way stop. So we're looking at doing that on September, but before September 15th, and we'll put some advanced warning signs out as soon as we put the sign up for a few weeks to let people know that the traffic is changing that. I just wanted to give council a heads up that
And could you repeat those two intersections?
Yep.
2nd Street South
2nd
and?
Street South and 22nd Avenue South. So it's down this way on 2nd Street.
Okay, and then the other one?
So it's just one intersection.
Oh, it's just one.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was thinking two. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So any questions on that? I'm gonna, the next item, we've got Lauren Locke here with us, and she's in Public Works. She's our grants writer. She's been doing an amazing job for us. She's been tracking down the Infrastructure Job Acts and all the new funding opportunities coming in water and transportation. So I'd like to give her some time. She's got a short presentation to talk about some two grants that we're really excited about that we just received notice of award on.
All right, thank you. Let me just get set up to share here. All right, good evening, Mayor, Council, and attendees. As expressed, I'm here to acknowledge two grants the city has recently been awarded. Let me take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Lauren Locklear, and I've been with the city for 3 years. I just started in the grant writing position in May of this year, and have been working through the grants though basically since I came on with the department, and our federal pursuits have really just accelerated in the past year with all the extra funding that we've received. So, two recent grants we've received. We have received a Water Smart Title 16 grant. Though the first one here I present to you today, I can't take credit for, as this has been a multi-year ongoing effort by our Water Resource Department. The Water Smart Title 16 grant application was a great effort by the city staff member Shannon Johnson, who is the wastewater treatment plant program manager, with amazing support from Brown and Caldwell, and the whole wastewater treatment plant's recycled water program team. As you can see here, noted on the right-hand side, we were awarded $3 million for a $12 million Nampa Recycled Water Program project. The program will contribute to the upgrade of Nampa's wastewater treatment plant, which intends to produce Class A recycled water for irrigation purposes and construct a pipeline from the wastewater treatment plant to the Phyllis Canal. As you can see on the second graphic, it's that purple line there. And this funding award is specifically for the pipeline construction, which will begin at Nampa Wastewater Treatment Plant and go to the new Phyllis Canal outfall in the Office Depot Fred Meyer parking lot. The second grant I present to you today was accomplished with support from consulting firm Burgess & Nyepel, and I am happy to report Nampa applied for and has been awarded $5 million with no local contribution needed to evaluate our federally recognized opportunity zone, the North Nampa neighborhood, for planning and design improvements, as well as to plan for implementation of these improvements. On the graphic here, the neighborhood area is shaded in blue, and you can see how the area is restricted and disconnected from the rest of the community by transportation infrastructure surrounding all sides of it, from I-84 to the north to the rail line to the south, and our major corridors of Northside Boulevard and 16th Avenue to the east and west. Census data showed that 60% of residents in this area do not have access to vehicles, and unfortunately, equitable access thereby persist throughout the neighborhood. Aging infrastructure has led to deteriorating curbs and sidewalks and poor road conditions, with many roadways and ped ramps not easily traversable, posing ADA and safety concerns, and many gaps limit connectivity and mobility. The Nampa Raise project intends to reconnect accessibility, improving safety and equity, with a goal of revitalizing the 2 square mile neighborhood area to increase connectivity and mobility for non-vehicular travelers, and reconnect this once vibrant area with the rest of Nampa and the greater Treasure Valley. The improvements are kind of highlighted on the graphic there. However, what they include would be multimodal mobility analysis to assess sidewalk rehab and gap fills, roadway condition and crosswalk safety, intersection improvements, potential extension of Indian Creek Pathway to the west, railroad underpass improvements at First Street North and Third Street North, identifying locations and implementation of mobility hubs, and design of a new 14th Avenue North and South Bike Boulevard that would now connect the otherwise disconnected roads to the south and north of the rails for a 14th Avenue promenade that would provide continuous connection from Centennial Elementary School on 5th Street through downtown all the way to Lakeview Park. The planning and design activities are anticipated to begin within the first or second quarter of 2023. That's the calendar year, not the fiscal year, and are expected to take 3 years to fully complete. Once complete, the city will have 6 to 8 fully designed comprehensive improvement packages ready for construction, fully paid for with the award funding. This has been a really rewarding year thus far, with more than $15 million having been awarded across 7 applications and funding programs. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
So Lauren, in looking at the information in our packet, it appears that the money that's been allocated is primarily for design. Is there any money available for construction?
There's not. So what we did was we submitted a planning application, and luckily this program provides planning application through full design. So this will get us to the point of having shovel-ready projects that we can look at and pick out some things that we might be able to accomplish through our capital improvement plan, or that we could pursue additional raise funding or other federal funding for. This puts us at a competitive edge against where our project readiness will be. And considering that we got funding for a raise planning grant, it also makes us very competitive, highly likely that whatever project we prioritize out of this, we could pursue raise funding for construction and most likely get highly recommended.
So in the Opportunity Zone, it's set to sunset at some point. Do you know what that date is?
I want to say it's in 2050, but I would have to defer to the NDC for that.
I'm on the NDC and I don't know that answer, so.
I think it was 10 years, and it started the first year of the Trump administration, so that would have been in 16, so we've got we just passed this timeframe. This particular design ends, I think it's to be done in 2025, and I think it may be 26 then, if that's the case. Yeah.
So the Opportunity Zone basically sunsets. So there's no incentive for developers from a financial standpoint to get dollars back for the improvements that are being designed, which is unfortunate. So I didn't know if there would be the possibility of extending the Opportunity Zone or.
I have not heard. Needless to say, that would be at the congressional level.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you. And I just had one final slide myself to thank everybody that's involved in the process, because I didn't do it alone, and it's been a really rewarding experience, everybody that I work with.
That's exciting. I tell you what, that's a game changer, if we can get that done. It would be nice if we got it done faster than anticipated with extra funds, if we could apply the funds, but I don't know if that opportunity would present itself, but we'll have to see.
To be fair, if we could get it done quicker, we don't actually need excess funds on our own. Those funds are going to be available to us as soon as we get everything under contract. So the quickest we could do it, we could potentially expedite some things to get some improvements in quicker.
Good. Thank you.
You're
Great
welcome.
work. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Tom, do you have anything else this evening? Great. Great presentation. And congratulations. Really appreciate the work and the vision. Thank you. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to new business, and we're going to begin with item 6.1 on the agenda. This has been on our agenda just a couple of times. This is an action item to authorize the mayor to sign a letter of support for the Compass Safety Action Plan application and to partner with Compass and local jurisdictional representatives as joint applicants in development of the Safety Action Plan. Mark, thank you for coming forward. I'm going to let you kick us off and then stand here and be available to answer questions.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mayor. Council, my name is Mark Stoyer. I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives for the City of Nampa and the Public Works Department. Per your request, the lead in this grant application is Compass, and they have provided a copy of their application for your review. Has been made part of the agenda packet, and staff, as well as myself, are available for any questions.
Thank you, Mark. Council, do you have any questions this evening?
You want to start?
Mayor?
Yes.
So, Mark, I printed the application that you submitted to us. I'm just wondering which part of what's being submitted for the application, because this is like explaining to us the background, the summary, all of those things, but then I'm confused about which part is the actual application.
Yeah, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Joey Schuler. I'm the grant writer representing Compass, and I am relatively new to this role. I started in April, so near the time that Lauren, 20 years with the Boys and Girls Club before that here in Ada County, and the nutrition program for Nampa. So it would be the section that starts with this opener. This is the narrative section that is submitted. I was told that the concern was regarding the narrative itself. So if you look at that's the cover page, there's a table of contents. And you might be surprised for the grant itself, it's just how small it really is. But this was a lowered barrier to submission, so the grant narrative itself is only 300 words, which is quite unheard of for a federal grant opportunity, so kind of a soft pitch for a new guy like me. But you can find that on page 4, is the actual narrative itself, and it's at 266 words, so still got 4 words I can work in.
Thank you.
Is there another question?
Mayor, yeah, I do have some questions. Thank you. And thanks for your work on this. I'm all in favor of this safety program. What I'm not quite understanding is, from what I read on our packet on page 120, was that you need to also address the 4 criterion. And the 4th criteria is climate change and sustainability and economic competitiveness. And I'm not seeing where that's being addressed.
Yeah, that's an important distinction. Mayor, members of the council, Council Member Brunner. So the portion of this, similar to what Lauren had shared, there's the planning grant portion and the implementation grant. And so this grant submission itself is for the planning grant portion, and that has 3 merit criteria and does not include anything related to climate change. If we are successful and receive the grant funds, we would then develop the safety action plan over the next, I'm hoping, 6 months, so that we could go for implementation grant funding to countywide for any local jurisdiction to pursue the next round of funding for implementation. If the council chooses to pursue implementation for shovel-ready construction projects, that's where the 4th criteria presents itself. And so, and I see it, as I read the criteria, it's really looking for things that influence the environment, but based on the safety project that has been submitted. So it's ranked lower, but it is a criteria. We don't get to decide how the administration prioritizes.
So process-wise, so the planning portion of the application, which is we're addressing tonight.
Correct.
Okay, so that gets approved, for instance.
Yes.
I'm using it as a narrative.
Yep.
And then we go for the implementation. Then does that come back to us as a municipality, just not the full partnership of all the municipalities and so on? Does that come back to us for our approval before we move ahead with this criterion number 4?
Mayor, members of the council, that is correct.
So we will have a say, and if this council, I can't speak for the full council, but if we are not happy, and there's 5 bullet points that I would want totally addressed in that area, before I would be at all approving this type of implementation, so,
Correct.
okay.
And Matt, I think, do you have a comment? Thank you.
Mayor, council members, Councilmember Brunner, just to clarify, any grant applications for the implementation would be done by the jurisdictions themselves. We will not be applying for implementation grants, so it would be your decision.
So it would
on
be a
that.
single Nampa type proposal. It would not be with all the other, planning is where we're combining our efforts on this
Yeah,
safety aspect.
Unless there's some sort of efficiency that the group identifies and the individual members want to participate, that from a cost efficiency would make sense to do it. But from the standpoint of, I'm looking at this point in time, implementation grants are done by the individual jurisdictions. So City of Nampa would apply for one, individual highway districts could apply for one, Caldwell could apply for one, ACHD over in Ada County could do one.
And you started with you think?
I got to see what the planning team, I want to see what the planning team comes up as a recommendation. But at this point in time, it is.
I mean, just, I'll give you one example here. Increased safety of lower carbon travel modes such as transit and active transportation. Incorporate lower carbon pavement and construction materials. So I want more than, I'm not getting on you. I think you guys have done a wonderful job with this safety aspect of it. But I would want to know exactly more than I think.
Your
Well,
staff.
I think, just for clarity, what Matt said was not that he can't speak to whether the individual jurisdictions in the next phase will decide to collaborate on a single application. It's not required, and that this language is in a separate implementation grant. He can't speak to where we're going. That's why he said, I think, because we can't speculate beyond right
My
now.
apologies.
Yeah, it's, yeah.
What I can guarantee is Compass will not be applying for an implementation grant.
Okay, it would
Because
be
we are
left
not
alone,
a
okay.
implementation agency. We're
Okay, that's good clarification.
There you go. Thank you.
Good, I appreciate it.
So I think the clarity that we're hearing tonight is that this is a planning grant, and that the language of concern is part of the implementation piece, which would come forth later if there were an implementation piece that the city of Nampa would choose to move forward on. Is that correct? Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for this team?
Mayor, really quickly. So on Exhibit C in here, where it has this rough draft kind of outline for Secretary Buttigieg in here, is this, so this is just kind of like a draft, but then it has a section that says personalize this letter for explaining. Is this what's going in that?
I'm unfamiliar with what you're directing to. Do you mind just helping me understand what are you reading the notice of funding opportunity itself?
Correct.
Yeah.
She's right.
Okay, go ahead.
It's your letter. So it's the draft letter that you wrote as a suggestion
Oh.
for folks, that you had the language in there.
Yeah, so the letters of support, the planning grant is to ask for people to join to make it as multi-jurisdictional as possible because they want to lower fatality rates. So they want as big of a jurisdictional area to encompass as possible. So the Office of the Secretary is the person who will receive these grants. So that's the person that we address the letter of support to.
So this narrative that you have written here is going to go into that section right there that is subject to personalization?
No, so this body could personalize that letter to submit as part of the application. It's an attachment.
This is separate than this.
Correct.
And this is the application.
That is the
narrative is the
narrative
application.
for the application, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any, yes,
Mayor Kling, so I have a question for
Councilman
Mark then.
Rodriguez.
So Mark, you get a direction from the council, and this example from what Councilman Jengler just said, is that we will formulate the direction the city wants to do. Send that letter under the guidelines of the grant itself, right?
Right. That's correct. It becomes part of the grant application
Okay,
as an attachment.
thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here. Matt, you've been here now a couple of times, so thank you for your willingness to be here. Thank you for answering our questions. What is the will of the council? Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion that we accept this only as a planning application and have nothing to do with implementation at this point in time.
I'll second.
Just a point of clarification. I want to make sure that when you say "and have nothing to do with," I want to clarify, it isn't that you're saying, no, we won't do an implementation. You're saying
I'm saying
that-
all we're approving tonight is just the planning phase.
Correct. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure we were clear on that. Okay. There's a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Yes. And mic on. Sorry, thanks.
I had it on at one time. And the action item is for you to sign the letter of support. Is the letter of support specific to that motion?
Yes.
Or does it need to be tailored?
I don't think so. I think we have the motion that we need on the table. Mark, I've lost you wherever you are. Mark, so basically the motion, actually, maybe we just read it, authorize the mayor to sign a letter of support for Compass's safety action plan and partner with Compass and local jurisdictional representatives as joint applicants in that. And maybe we add on to that.
As long as it's identified as the planning application
So it needs to be amended.
only.
So,
Thank you.
so let's say, would you say that your motion is amended as just stated?
Yes, Mayor.
And the second?
Second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded, amended as stated. Thank you for the clarification. Darrell, thank you very much. Appreciate the motion because I know you have concerns and that you're willing to say, hey, you
I
get it.
just-
And
Mayor, as you all know, I mean, we are in the Treasure Valley, but we don't always have the same line of thinking as all the municipalities in the Treasure Valley, especially 20 miles east of us. So I want to make sure we have our individuality. So, thanks.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Changula,
No.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Hammerfield,
Yes.
Bauer,
No.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
4 in favor, 2 opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you again for being here tonight. You can go home if you want to. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move to item 6.2 on the agenda. This is a consideration of an alcohol license application, a request from H&M Meats and Catering, and it's located at 215 14th Avenue South. Shar has proceeded down to the front because she's actually going to present this action item and then come sit down. You will notice that there are 2 action items on the agenda. Shar, thank you.
Madam Mayor, council members, I'm Shar Tim, the city clerk. This is consideration of 2 requests from the new owners of H&M Meats and Catering. One is the approval of a transfer of an existing beer and wine license to the new owners of a business located at 215 14th Avenue South. The second request is requesting to add liquor sales to the existing license, which requires a waiver from council as the business is located within 300 feet of the church. I'd like to make reference to the location map, which is currently on the screen and was also located in your council packets. You will see that the highlighted area is where H&M Meats is located, and the circled part is where the Bible Pentecostal Church is. Thank you for the pointer. If you could go to the next screen. This is actually a street view of H&M Meats. You'll see where it looks like garage doors. That is the entrance of H&M Meats. And if you look to the left, you'll see a white building. That is where the church is located. And if you could go to the
Shar,
final.
could I make a clarification? The entrance to H&M is the red door.
Oh, I apologize.
Thank you.
Yes.
The other door that now has an awning over the top, that is an enclosed sitting area that is fenced. So you cannot walk, I don't believe you can walk outside that fenced area. I just want to clarify because the photo today, it's a little bit different than that, and the entrance is the red door.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you could go to the next screen. And this is an aerial view, again, showing the highlighted area of H&M Meats and all the other businesses that are located surrounding them. According to City Code Section 5-12-11, no license for the sale of liquor, wine, or beer by drink shall be issued for any premise in any neighborhood which is predominantly residential or within 300 feet of the property boundaries of any public school, church, or any other place of worship measured in a straight line to the nearest entrance to the licensed premise. So if you could go back to that second screen. So from the property line containing the church building to the entrance of H&M Meats is approximately 53 feet. And it's probably a little bit longer because I was mistaken of where the entrance was. I do want to reiterate that this location currently does have an existing beer and wine license. It is located within the Downtown Historic Zoning District, where restaurants are permitted and do not require a conditional use permit if alcohol sales are under 40%. The clerk's office mailed a letter to Bible Pentecostal Church on August 11th, notifying them of the waiver request. On August 24th, an email was received from the church providing support to the application, and that has been included in the council packet.
And could I have you pause right there? Were they supporting both the transfer of the beer and wine license, that ownership, or are they also supporting the request of waiver on the premise of liquor sales?
They were supporting the entire request.
The entire request, okay, thank you.
The previous business, H&M Meats and Catering, had no points associated with its license. The applicant, Ken Sangha, has been in the hospitality industry for 25 years and has stated that he currently holds a Canyon County liquor license in Middleton. The applicant has provided the company's business model as well as an introduction letter, which is included in your packet, and I would like to briefly summarize. They will reopen the business under a new name, Yogi Farms Barbecue. The initial hours of operation will be Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., with future days of operation to be Tuesday through Saturday. The majority of the revenue, approximately 72%, is expected to be with food sales. H&M Meats and Catering had an existing beer and wine license. The request for a full alcohol license is being driven by the restaurant's financial need. According to the applicant, it indicates that the addition of a liquor sales to the existing on-premise beer and wine license could increase revenue by 20%. The company's alcohol serving policy has been provided in the council packet. The applicant spoke to the pastor of the Bible Pentecostal Church and has received support. The applicant also reached out to various business organizations, the Nampa Chamber of Commerce, the Downtown Nampa Community Association, the City of Nampa Economic Development Department, and the Business Improvement District, and indicated that he received their support. A support letter from BID has also been included in the council packet. The applicant should be in the audience and available for any questions. That is the end of my presentation, and if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'm going to go back up to the dais.
Mayor, I do have questions for the applicant, for the owner.
Yes, and they'll come next, but does anyone have a question for our clerk
Maybe,
before
right,
she's
right.
seated? Yes. Okay, we have a couple.
It's slow. I was just going to check and see if Rick Bray is the senior pastor? Okay, thank you.
And Councilman Bauer, do you have a question?
With new ownership, I'm not sure if this was, I was kind of digging around. So like the entrance, so nothing's been changed with the business.
Correct.
I remember last time, that was one of the reasons I voted for support was part of where actually the entrance of the door was compared to where the church was. So I just make sure no reconstruction or
They have-
difference of entrance was.
Councilmember Bauer, they have not indicated that they are making any changes to the building. What they were doing is by contacting the city clerk's office, they are wanting to transfer the existing beer and wine license and then also add an additional liquor license.
And in our packet on page 155, there is a picture of the exterior building and the entry door. And then it also shows a picture of the exterior seating area and what they have along that to where it is a barriered piece. So that is in our packet.
Been there a few times.
Yeah. It's awesome. Yes.
Mayor, the liquor aspect of it, there is a percentage, I don't recall what that is, as far as the limitation of how much actual liquor sales can be. Is it 25%?
40%, isn't it?
40? Okay. Because they do have in here what they're looking at as far as revenue projections, and 25% was the alcohol side of it, so.
So, Madam Mayor, Councilmember Haverfield, I had received that since they are in the Downtown Historic Zoning District, that they are permitted, restaurants are permitted and do not require a conditional use permit if the alcohol sales are under 40%.
Under 40%. That was the number I was looking for. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Shar before she's seated? Okay, Shar?
Okay.
And then the actual applicant themselves, I believe, is here. Are they here? Hi. Would you like to come forward and give us your name? And then,
Ken Sanga.
thank you, Ken. So what would you like to, would you like to share anything, and then council may have some questions for you?
I'll answer questions. I never took those public speaking classes in college, so I struggle at this, so I'll try to do the best.
Okay, Councilman
Anyway,
Brunner.
thank you for continuing with the business here. I've been on this council for about 7 years, and I've been pretty consistent. And my one question, since the Bible Pentecostal Church has no problems, I don't have a problem with the number of feet. What I always ask is regarding the liquor license. I have, again, no problem with the beer and wine transfer. That is fine. You have a separate bar area for those who want to come in and have stronger drinks.
No, we are only planning on serving along with the food.
Okay,
Yeah,
and under 18-year-olds, from a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, anyone could be sitting in the restaurant part where the harder drinks are being served.
Right, like the restaurants
Okay, and you're
are
also
allowed.
aware that with a beer and wine license, you can serve all kinds of cocktails and so on. It's just a lower alcohol content with a beer and wine license, but you still do not want to do that.
One of the main reasons is that the kind of food we're serving, people request full hotter liquors that go with that kind of food. So
Okay, and so that's my challenge. So just so you're aware, I love the businesses you're going to do, but I'm not going to be voting in favor past the transfer of the beer and wine license.
No
Okay.
worries, understood.
All right.
There is a full liquor license in the same building already.
And I probably didn't vote for that either. Okay. If it's a bar or a tavern or whatever, or a separate bar area in a restaurant where families can, I'm fine. I just don't want that mix. And you don't need to hear my narrative, but I was in a restaurant business for 14 years. We didn't serve alcohol, but I had people come in who were under the influence. And some of the things I had to deal with our waitresses and so on was not, and kids in the restaurant was not a friendly atmosphere. So that was over 30 years ago. So maybe things have changed, but I don't know. Okay.
It's part of this is proper monitoring.
I understand that, and I know you're going to do your best on that, but not everyone can ever control it every minute.
You're
Okay.
absolutely right.
Thanks.
I'll just make a comment. You are aware of the guidelines that we have to hold a license in the city of Nampa, which is the training for your servers, right? And that we do have some processes in place,
Absolutely.
I'm sure, as you've applied. Great. Are there any other questions for the applicant? See, none. Thank you so much for being here tonight. So at this point, if there's no questions, you can sit down. If another one comes up, we'll holler at you.
Absolutely, thank you.
So thank you very much. Thank you. So what is the will of the council? We do have 2 action items in front of us, and I think we will address those separately, just for clarity. So the first action item is the request for approval for beer and wine transfer of ownership.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the request and approval for the beer and wine transfer of ownership. Is there any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
The second item is a request for waiver to allow on-premise liquor sales within 300 feet of the church.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to allow on-premise liquor sales within 300 feet of the church. Is there any discussion?
Mayor, I struggle a little bit with the thought, just like Darrell was talking about, of having actual hard liquor being taken to tables with family, in a family sitting. I think about Brick 29, though, there is a bar area that you walk by when you go sit down. So, I mean, and then they have a separate bar area in the basement of the building as well. So when I look at them being a very nice establishment, my concern is the separation potentially of the two, but I think we've already seen that they can coexist, so I'm a little torn, but I'll make when it gets around to me, I'll make my choice.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Brunner.
No.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
I can't I can't create a tie, so I'm going to say yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Chingula,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
5 in favor, 1 opposed, motion carries.
Okay. So you can go home now. So there you
Unless you want
go.
to stay.
Yeah, yes, you're welcome to stay if you choose. Thank you so much. Okay, let's go ahead and move forward with one more action item before we step into public hearings, and that will be 6.3 on the agenda. This is to authorize the mayor to sign a resolution for the reappointment of Councilmember Darrell Bruner to the Nampa Development Corporation for a 5-year term beginning October 1, 2022, ending September 31, 2027.
Mayor, I do have a question. I did see
Yes.
this in here. And so my term is up at the end of 2023. So this
Yes.
goes past that. And I've been serving as one of the 2 council members. So I guess my question is, how does that work?
Well, actually, if you're no longer a council member, I think my thought was, and Rick, you're welcome to come forward.
Good question. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Right now, the ordinance as it's written states that a fixed number of sitting council members serve on the NDC, and that's 2. It's not a, so it's just a fixed number threshold. If council wanted to revisit adjusting that ordinance, it's been adjusted over the years to require maybe a not to exceed 2. It would allow potentially Councilman Bruner to continue to serve if he wasn't on council. But that would be a policy decision left up to you as a council to contemplate maybe next year. So, but as it stands right now, per the ordinance, if you were not to run for reelection or couldn't even run for reelection
I
based
wouldn't
on
be
how
able
the
to run,
zoning.
I wouldn't be able to run after 23 anyway, or for 2 years, so.
Yeah, so council would be staring down, having to make a determination on whether or not Council Bruner would be replaced by another council member to be that second person or to adjust the ordinance to allow him. to
So,
potentially serve.
Mayor and Rick, so the question is then that can be decided at a later time, even though this may pass tonight?
Correct.
Yes.
It would-
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
That was my intention, was that with the understanding that you enjoy serving, that you would like to continue to serve, we can address that at that time as we get a little bit closer. But for today, for the next year plus, you will continue to serve in that capacity.
Appreciate that, maybe.
Mayor?
Yes.
So Rick, are there any other members on the commission that their terms are up at the same time?
No, this is the only expiration for this year.
Thank you.
Mayor Clay,
Yes,
I'll make a motion if you don't mind.
that would be great.
Since my brother Darrell and Doug all dressed alike, and the other ones don't, and and Natalie wears a blue dress, it's my honor to actually to make this. It's my honor to make this approval.
necessarily our political color.
That's correct. But it would be my honor to replace, or not to replace, put him back on. This is going terrible. But anyway, I make the motion to approve Darrell to be back on the NDC because that work has been difficult and the NDC has come through for the city of Nampa, and that's because of Darrell and Randy and the commissioners. So, Mayor, I will make that honorable request.
Mayor, I'll second it if Darrell promises to use his scissors.
Yes. Thank you.
Use his scissors.
What's, oh, the pink scissors.
Pink's not my favorite color. Go ahead.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we authorize the mayor to sign a resolution for the reappointment of Councilmember Darrell Bruner to the Nampa Development Corporation. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Bruner,
I don't usually vote for myself, but I appreciate the honor to serve in that capacity, so, yes.
Chingula,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Bauer,
Absolutely.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes, sir.
All in favor, motion carries.
Good
I will
job.
not make another motion because I'll mess it up.
Before we move to public hearings, I would like to address item 6.4 on the agenda. And this is the Economic Development is requesting to allocate $90,000 in Community Development Block Grant funding to the Housing Company as recommended in our packet. Matt, you probably thought we were going to pause, but I thought let's go ahead and address that before we move into public hearings. So, because I wasn't sure if anyone was here from the Housing Company and if you needed to stay, so.
Mayor, I'm going to make the motion to approve that, and after
Yes.
discussion, he can address that, but I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to authorize the $90,000. So is there any discussion?
We're good.
Questions?
Just, again, as I've said numerous times, it is in our packet. We've read through that.
Yes.
So that's the reason
Yep.
for that. So.
No, I was hoping to make it as clear as I could, so,
You did a good job. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt, for your
thank
good
you.
work.
Thank you.
And it's Catherine, right? Thank you for being here this evening. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Jangula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
This way you can go home, Catherine. You don't have to sit here for the next 2 hours. So thank you for being here and thank you for your work in our community. It's appreciated. Thank you. With that, it is 6:30 and it is time to move to the public hearing side of our agenda. And we do have a few public hearings on the agenda, and we're going to start with public hearing 7-1. The applicant has requested a continuance to November 7th, 2022. So with that, I don't think we're even opening the public hearing. We're just going to continue it. Is that correct? Okay.
You don't need a motion?
We do need a motion.
I'll make a motion to continue this to the November 7th city council meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we continue the public hearing 7-1 to November 7. Any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
Jangula.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Public hearing 7-2 on the agenda is an action item. This is annexation and zoning to RS7, single-family residential zoning district, and a potential development agreement and subdivision preliminary plat for La Palomona Blanca, I think I just said that wrong, subdivision at 87 South Happy Valley Road for Oscar Diaz. And thank you, as our applicant comes forward, for sharing your name and address.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Dan Lardy, Levin Associates, 1324 First Street South, Nampa. So I'm here representing Oscar Diaz for La Paloma Blanca subdivision. It's located on 87 South Happy Valley, just next to the Columbia High School and its seminary. It shares a current access with the seminary, which we will not be using. We've asked for permission to come off of Happy Valley, and the city has granted us that, or at least has suggested that that's okay. Where do I point? Oh, there it is. Oh, too far. Sorry about that. Oh, there we go. It's very sensitive. So it is currently an enclave property. Again, its comprehensive plan is for medium density. There's a site on this one. Behind us is RS12, which is on the west line there, which we've buffered with some compatibility lots. Let me change to a little bit. Oh, that's what I want. So this has the compatibility. So we've gone with 10,000 square foot lots along that acreage to meet the ordinance as far as trying to be compatible with our neighbors. Our neighbors behind us are, I believe they're half acre or better. Let me go back. And there's the preliminary plat. You guys have got that all in your packet. Sewer is going to be coming off from the north. We've asked for an easement along Wagon and along our neighboring property to our north. We've worked with city to bring the sewer down and into the site. Water is going to come off of Happy Valley. And pressurized irrigation is also coming off of Happy Valley. During our staff report, the city had suggested going to 44 foot of right-of-way instead of a private road. We've gone and showed that into our preliminary plat in this go-around and has been submitted. We'll skip over the compatibility since we discussed that already. Open space plan. So open space, we have a landscape buffer along the front. There's a 10-foot suggested pathway along Happy Valley, and the front is the Happy Valley. And then we have 2 open space lots for storm drainage. And just a quick summary of the total area. Open space shown that we have on our plat is 10.6%. And there's another quick overview of the site. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions?
I do, Mayor.
Yes.
Just for the mayor and council's purpose, La Paloma Blanca is translated into the White Dove subdivision. That's what it means. Kind of cool. The White Dove. Kind of
Hence,
cool.
the white dove.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So I see Dave Ferdinand had a meeting with the residents out there. How did that go?
We did have the original neighborhood meeting went well. The neighbors to our west met with us. That was back in December, I believe. We met over at Columbia High School, and the neighbors they weren't in denial, but they weren't in favor. They were just kind of neutral. They were just happy to see that the area was getting cleaned up. That particular property has been used as a contractor's laydown yard and some storage. They're slowly cleaning that up and taking care of some weeds out there. So it went well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for the applicant? Thank you. And you know that you will be back after the public hearing, so we'll have you come back and provide closing comments and answer any questions that might arise.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Doug?
Mayor and Council, Doug Critchfield, Planning and Zoning. So the La Paloma subdivision is being proposed in a medium-density residential. So the density that they're proposing matches the comprehensive plan. There are utilities available to the site from the Happy Valley. The zoning district, the minimum and maximum lot sizes have been met as well as all of the other limitations within that zoning district. The fiscal impact is that if these lots are over 12, or the homes are over 1,200 square feet in size, that it will be a net positive impact for the city. We did receive correspondence from agencies. It's in your staff report. The 10-foot sidewalk is the most significant in terms of the requirements on site. The conclusions, the P&Z Commission met on this. There was a favorable response, and they recommended approval. The only condition, the conclusion that the council needs to decide is whether the timing and location is appropriate at this time. Staff agrees with the Planning and Zoning Commission's findings on the project regarding annexation and the zoning. Again, this has been stated in your staff report. In terms of the conditions of approval, again, I'll refer to your staff report on that. They're generally standard conditions with some requirements of the engineering department. And the recommendations are before you, and I'll be glad to take any questions.
Thank you, Doug.
Mayor
Council?
Kling?
Yes, good. You heard that. Yes.
Rear and side yard setbacks, what's proposed?
The rear and side yard setbacks are in RS7. It would be 5 feet.
Okay. And they're planning single and two-story. There's no limitation as far as on the height of the buildings.
I believe 30 feet is the height limitation.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Doug at this time? Thank you, Doug. Great job. This is a public hearing, and we'll let the clerk tell us who signed up.
Madam Mayor, our first person that signed up is David Ferdinand, who is in support and would like to speak on it.
Good evening.
Good evening. I am David Ferdinand at 2419 West Heron Loop, and we've been working with his family for the last year. And with Dan Lardy of Levitt and Associates, and he's the one with all the brilliance and all the drawings. So any questions, go to Dan. Just wanted to, I was going to say, it is the White Dove. And this is a family that Oscar, his wife passed away, and he wanted to do this subdivision in honor of his wife, and so that's why he called it La Paloma Blanca. And I also have Ignacio Pena is here, the son-in-law, and we've been working for the last year to develop this. And as Dan said, the property is being currently used as more of a construction fenced-in area, a little rough-looking. They've cleaned up all the weeds. They got everything put together that was in the previous report at Planning and Zoning, and are looking forward to building the 8 houses that will go in there next to Columbia High School and the LDS Seminary area right there on Happy Valley. They're also going to be building, they believe, just single family, to answer that question that came up from Commissioner.
Single level or?
Single level, yeah.
Okay.
Especially with the 10,000 square foot lots that are to the back with those half acre lots. That was one of the concerns that we had heard at the neighborhood meeting, and the family just wants it to be a nice, single level, nice subdivision, affordable for that area. We really believe that this is going to improve the community. The family has been working on the plan to really improve that area, and then to honor the Oscar's wife. Let's see if there was anything else. Nampa City Engineering is requiring, of course, the 44-foot roads. Those changed, the 10-foot sidewalks out front. This should help, the walkability in front of and to and from Wagon Street, which is right next door, where most of the development behind will come out. And obviously, we're asking for recommendation from Planning and Zoning and from staff. I don't think there was anything else that I know staff had said single-family residential zoning consistent with the comprehensive plan and a future land use map designation for medium-density residential in that particular area. So that would be it. We're asking for your approval on the annexation and zoning to RS. I'll stand for questions.
Thank you so much. Are there
I
any
know it's
questions?
amazing I got done in time.
You did
didn't I?
good.
Yeah. Right.
You're the first one that had the chime.
I love the
Very first one to have the chime.
I thought that was just for me.
Oh, it was.
Any questions?
Mayor?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have a
Dave-
question?
Dave, so if you can answer some questions related to the actual layout. My question earlier was the setbacks. It appears graphically that they're indicating more than a 5-foot rear yard setback, which I have a concern about the 5-yard setback. But if their intent is to have 10 feet or more, then that should be explained, or at least be identified. The other thing is, if they are single or 2-story homes, the answer to my initial question was 30 foot is the limit. So you've stated that they were thinking about a single family, but not a single level.
And let me correct that, Madam Mayor. And Councilman Haverfield, the family is talking about just doing single level, not just single family, but one.
One story.
One story. yeah.
Okay.
Right. They felt that the size of the lots, those 10,000 square foot lots, you're going to have plenty of room in the back in order to keep that distance that you were talking about. And besides, you don't want people in a 2-story house looking over into the backyards of the people that are next door.
Okay.
So that was the concept.
So what the RS7 zone, I think that's what it was, yeah, RS7 zone allows is not necessarily what is intended to be built.
Correct.
So, okay, thank you.
Yep.
So we could have the applicant, as they come forward at the end, provide some clarification on that.
Sure.
Thank you.
And obviously, the developer, the family is here, but didn't want to speak. So, all right.
David, thank you.
Madam Mayor, Ignacio Pena is in support but does not wish to speak. Eric Pearson is also in support, and he's not sure if he'd like to speak or not.
Good evening. Thank you for restating your name and address.
Certainly. Mayor, Council, my name is Eric Pearson. I live at 96 South Smiley Court, which is on the other side of the property line from the La Paloma Blanca proposed development. I also represent the Happy Valley Estates HOA. And given what has been communicated prior, none of us are opposed to it. Our biggest issue has to do with some privacy and the buffer zone, which has been addressed as far as, allowing some modicum of privacy and the single-level homes. Our biggest fear was to have homes where the back of the house butts right up against the fence line. The development on the other side of our subdivision has been a point of contention with my neighbors across the street, as that zoning area has been somewhat of an issue, and the height of the homes. So in talking with Ignacio and David about what their plans are, we don't have any objections as long as they're willing to work with us as far as the height of the homes. And from what sounds like single level, single family homes, we don't have any objection to that at this time with the proposed development, especially with the buffer zone being proposed on the west side of the property.
So do you have an HOA in your,
We do, yes.
You do?
There's only 6 homes in our subdivision, and yes, we do have an HOA.
have you discussed the subdivision somewhat mirroring the HOA that you have?
To a limited extent. Most of our, going through all this, most of the communication has been what kind of homes, what size, of property, or what size of houses are going to be built. So as far as the actual HOA structure, we have not had that in-depth of conversation.
What kind of HOA requirements do you have?
Most of the restrictions are the size of the houses, what you can park on the property, what you can't park on the property, the type of fencing. The setbacks that we have are 10 foot, at least my border's at least a 10-foot setback, and I currently have about 40 foot from the back of my house to the fence line. So, those are probably the major points as far as the CCRs are concerned.
So you said that you have a neighboring property that is somewhat problematic. Does it have to do with the setbacks, the heights of the building, or does it have to do with the HOA and what they're permitting on their properties?
Setbacks and the height of the building. The conversation made with my neighbors and the developer at the time, they had requested that, if they could just have single levels, to which the answer was, oh, sure, not a problem. That shouldn't be an issue. My neighbor to the south of me, he has a house that is hugging that setback to the inch. It's a 7-foot setback. He's right at 7 foot. It's a 2-story house, looks right down into his backyard. And he has voiced his displeasure with that quite a few times with the developer, to which the developer says, I'm not gonna take any more calls regarding this. So, seeing this, we just wanted to make sure that we're on the same page as far as the overall aesthetic and development as it exists.
Perfect, thank you. Council, do you have any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your testimony. So is that,
Yeah, Madam Mayor, we do not have anyone else signed up.
okay. Is there anyone here this evening that did not sign up but that would like to testify on this particular public hearing? Yes, go ahead and come forward and please give your name and address.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Brianne Holiday. I live at 67 South Happy Valley Road, so pretty close to where this is going on. I'm not for it, but I'm not against it, so I'm kind of neutral. But I would like to know what the plans are about the traffic on the road. I know they said a 44 right away. Maybe I'm just not familiar with that, but I already have a hard time getting out of my house as it is on that road. And there's busy, I see people walking to school on that road, and so I worry about that. And is there any plans on widening the road? With Kings and Victory being closed, I'm already seeing an increase in traffic, so those are my concerns when they're doing the planning to take into consideration.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your testimony. And I think our engineering team is sitting here, so comments duly noted. I don't know that we'll be able to answer those at the end, but we may be able to.
Or just something to put in for next time. Or
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for taking time to come tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that had intended to speak this evening? Okay, seeing none, this is an opportunity for our applicant to come back and provide some closing comments.
Madam Mayor, council members, state your name again. Dan Lardy, Levin Associates, 1324 First Street South, Nampa.
Thank you.
So on some of those comments, for one, to address Councilman Haverfield's question about the setbacks along the access route into the seminary. That back side is actually, we've got some utilities back there that we want to maintain and we have to buffer. And so it's a little bit wider than what we would normally see as far as a rear setback.
So what is that setback?
That's what we were trying to determine while we were sitting there. I believe that it's at least 10 feet for the irrigation line. I think it's wider than that shown because there is an easement along that access road there for half the road there.
So perimeter lots, is there an easement around the perimeter of the development?
So along the south line, and let's see if I can find yeah, I know. Thanks, Daniel. So along the west line and along the south line, so along the seminary, there's utilities going along the south line there, and then that irrigation line turns and goes north along the west boundary line. So that's going to have to be 10 feet minimum.
Okay, so 10 feet minimum. I'm looking at, north arrow's kind of off on this. So north, south, and west property lines for the development. Is that a minimum of 10 feet for the easement?
For the easement, yes.
Okay. So there won't be any homes built within 10 feet, but can you put trees on the easement?
Good question. So as far as the irrigation easement, no, you wouldn't be able to put trees back there. So the trees would have to be held back at 10 feet also.
Okay. So the 5-foot setback is unrealistic as far as to be able to have any planting, and/or it would be over the easement that you're talking about. So the RS7 setbacks don't apply in the case of this development, potentially. And we do have a language in the request to be able to create a development agreement that we can list out some things. And that's one thing that I would like to talk about is the setbacks.
So internally, I believe the setbacks comply or will be for RS7. However, around the perimeter, yes, you're right. There are utilities around most of the perimeter.
Okay.
So yes.
Can you speak to the desire to have just single-level homes?
I cannot. I can tell you that the builder has, or the owner has stated that that's what they'd like to do is build single
So if it's in the development agreement that they're only single-level homes, then they're okay with that?
Yep, they confirmed.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, that answers that question. And then the architectural character, is there any standards that the development will have to create cohesiveness, or is it just open to whatever they want to build?
That is definitely a question for the owner. I haven't been given any specific or any particulars on the homes themselves, type and character.
The mayor asked about commonality of other subdivisions around it that have CCNRs or, which normally has architectural character listed in it. So I didn't know if this one would match the others.
So from my
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, from what I understand, the owner is interested in building something that's nice, as it's a tribute to his deceased wife. So
All right, thank you.
I don't want to put him into marble frontages or anything like that, but
Yeah, everything's going to be brick. No. Thank you. You've answered my question.
So Mayor, if I may, so going to be nice character, nice homes. Is it going to be a multiple, are these lots being sold separately to multiple builders, or do we know?
that's a good question. May I ask?
Oh. You're going to do the building?
Sounds like a single builder.
Maybe it's time for him to come forward.
You are welcome to come forward if you'd like
Yeah,
to speak and answer
yeah.
these questions.
And so-
Or
yeah.
if you want to restate the answer, that's fine. So the question was, will there be a single builder or multiples? And the owner of the property has suggested that they will be building generally the homes themselves.
Do I need to restate, Madam Mayor? You did a fine job.
No, you don't have to restate. I just wanted to make sure for the record that we heard. So go ahead. You
And
have-
so I guess, same with President Haverfield over there in the development agreement, as far as the setbacks, the single story and single builder, I guess I would be interested in all three of those being in the development agreement.
Well, and then this may be for the owner to come forward and answer, but actually, for me, the HOA, the CCNRs are really important,
Yes,
that they mirror. And so my question for the owner, would they be willing to adopt CCNR similar to the adjoining subdivision? Okay,
Madam Mayor, council members, that's affirmative from the owner.
thank you. I think that's how you protect the neighbors in their subdivision, so. Are there other questions for our applicant? Okay, are we sure? Okay. Do you have any any additional closing comments? Because once I close public hearing, we don't get to hear from you again, so.
Madam Mayor, council members, we just
Yes.
look forward to your approval, and thank you.
Mayor, I do have one last question.
Okay. And legal, after you.
Okay. The stormwater retention area, is that meant to be below surface or on surface retention of water?
Mayor, Councilmember Haverfield, it is intended to be below surface.
Okay, so
in
it's a
that area.
playable area for the kids?
It is, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, legal.
Madam Mayor, just if I might express some reservation on the single builder. I understand the reason behind it, but really the more appropriate approach would be to make sure that there's an architectural consistency and those kind of things. I don't know that we can limit who they may sell the lot to. We do have a
Right.
representation from the applicant that they plan to do it themselves, but some more, if you're satisfied with the design objective type criteria, I'd prefer that versus a single builder requirement.
Thank you. I think that makes, thank you for speaking up on that. And true, if they had the opportunity and to sell a lot, they should have the freedom to do so, so.
Mayor, I always
yeah.
follow legal, so.
Good for you. I'm glad you respect our legal, yeah,
Except when you're on a golf cart.
yeah.
Kill
So
yourself.
are there any other questions for our applicant? Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank you,
the
Madam Mayor.
presentation.
Council members.
I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
What is the will? This is council discussion opportunity. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor Kling.
Yes.
First of all, Scott, we want to say we're sorry for your loss. And what a way to remember your wife. That's pretty cool. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to approve. And of course, we can't say no to Dave right next to him, but, oh yeah, we can. But for the first time, we have a subdivision that is going to be without multi apartments. I love it. That's just my opinion.
Any other discussion?
Mayor, I'm willing to make a motion as long as we can attach a development agreement to it.
So let's discuss that development agreement before your motion.
Okay. If it's the intent of the builder owner to only create single-level homes, then I'm fine with the 5-foot side yard setbacks, but I would like to have a 10 to 15-foot well, say 10-foot minimum rear yard setback, knowing that there'll be a 20-foot front yard setback for the driveways. So that should be stated. I didn't see it stated here. The RS7 allows a 5-foot side or rear yard setback, which is too tight for me to be able to have any landscaping for shading purposes. But they mentioned that there'll be an easement around the perimeter of at least 10 feet, so you can't put anything on it. So I would just add to that, then if it's a 10-foot irrigation easement, that an additional 5 feet be on those lots so that there could be some vertical nature trees be placed between the back of the home and the easement itself.
Okay. So, and hopefully, a single level, of course, is going to be a bigger footprint, and hopefully it accommodates that, and that's the key. So what I understand is that it's the 5-foot setback in addition to a 10-foot easement. So it's 15 feet on that back.
That's just for consideration.
For consideration, okay.
And we talked about the last time we went through this in the subdivision next year's, of having the ability to have a patio take 25% of that back, so that it could be reduced. But in this case, if there's a 10-foot easement, you can't build on it anyway.
Right.
So-
That would satisfy the 5-foot setback. And I think the other HOA they thought was a 10-foot setback. So the easement would actually satisfy that. And so could we state that we prefer the 10-foot? I mean, that the 10-foot is that, you would prefer there be another 5, but,
I'd prefer that, but I'm not stuck on that.
okay,
So I was just going to say a minimum 10-foot rear yard setback,
okay.
the 20-foot front yard setback for the driveways to the front of the garages. And since they have the maneuverability in the roads themselves, as far as there might even be some parking, but that would be a part of the CCNRs that they would need to develop, and that merits further discussion. But setbacks were the main thing for me. If it's a single-level approach to all those homes, then that takes away the concern about the side yard setbacks being 8 feet plus for the 2-story buildings, which is common throughout the valley. And then the architectural character, again, could be defined in the CCNRs. If it's craftsman, whether it's contemporary, whatever they choose, so that maybe there would be something stated to that effect. But that's what's commonly being built right now with the materials that are available.
So could we say that the CCNRs, that they would mirror the neighboring CCNRs at a minimum?
For compatibility
For
of
compatibility.
architectural character, yeah.
Okay. So, Rodney, or Doug, I think you had I'm watching you, and I think you may have a comment, so I'd like, yeah.
Mayor, we were just talking about whether there needs to be any kind of distinction between the primary structure and an accessory structure. If you go that direction with 15, perhaps it's for the primary structure, and then the 10-foot is for the accessory structure, like a shed. Just want to make sure that's clear whenever you make that motion.
Well, if we go with 10 feet, that would go, and I think Randy said you may, Councilman Haverfield, may be okay with that, then there would only be one, correct? Because you cannot encroach upon an easement.
Correct, yeah.
So-
So if you say 10 feet, then we don't have any concerns. So that was
Okay.
my only comment.
So the question then, Mayor, to Rodney is, can a temporary storage unit be put over an easement since it's not on a permanent foundation?
You want to take that?
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, even a structure that does not require a building permit should not be placed within an easement.
Okay.
That's not to say that never happens, but if we receive complaints, we do deal with that using code enforcement and require those to be moved.
Okay, so am I correct in saying a 20-foot front setback, 5-foot side yard setback, and 10-foot minimum rear yard setback?
So we have some details that you need to work out with the front setback. We allow 15 feet for living structure, the living part of the building. And 20 feet is required for any kind of garage or carport or anything.
So is that in the RS7 or all?
That's RS.
RS, okay. So 15-foot living, but it's still 20 feet at the garages.
Mhm.
Okay.
Correct.
And then any fencing that is placed, we went over this on another project, the fencing is at the 15-foot setback off the front, which would match, or I guess it would 15 and 20.
Correct.
Match whatever the corner is.
That's correct.
Okay.
So if what I'm hearing though is that if they build according to code, then that this would be following code with the exception of an additional requirement of the 10-foot easement, which supersedes the 5-foot setback anyway.
Yeah, and the easement's
right?
already there, and so they couldn't do it anyway.
Okay.
But you could put that extra condition on it. It doesn't really do anything because they already have that.
Just a reminder, no structures in that 10-foot.
Mhm.
Okay, so really it's pretty straightforward then with our current code. Okay, other than the CCNRs.
Right. And then, Mayor, again, Rodney, so the landscaping is defined as well. Is it a type 1, type 2 tree requirement per lot?
Yeah, I just looked at this today. There are 2 trees, and there's a type, class 1, thank you, class 1 and class 2 in there,
On each lot?
on each lot.
Okay, and there's nothing stating where they are. They could be in the front or,
They are required to have one in the front, in the right-of-way, and it's in the setback. If they can't fit it in that area for some reason, then they are allowed to go anywhere else on the property.
okay. Because looking at the graphic, there's only 1 tree shown on these lots.
Yeah, so they'll need to meet that condition. We'll review that at time of building permit.
Maybe they're lighter. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so it sounds as though, yes.
I'm sorry, I have
Yeah,
one
go
question
ahead.
for legal. Todd, when we say that we want this new project to coincide with another HOA, we don't know what the other HOA requirements, regulations, CCRs are all about. So how can we say that without knowing the requirements? And will they be continuous with the new?
Madam Mayor and Councilmember Rodriguez, so you're correct, we don't know what they say. But I don't think we're talking about the full spectrum of their CCNRs. We're talking about architectural and design consistency. So I think you could describe that in that way. It may not be, the exact same language, but to provide for architectural consistency between the 2 types or the two subdivisions. It does leave a little bit of room for interpretation, but we don't know the exact language of the other CCNRs, but that would give staff some opportunity to review that for consistency with the applicant.
Okay, because I was always wondering that maybe Mr. Diaz wants to do something different, a better, more concise HOA regulations. But as far as that's concerned, I just wanted to make that point and clear that issue up.
Madam Mayor and Councilmember Rodriguez, yes, that as far as voting requirements and other rules and regulations, I don't think we're talking about that. We're talking about architectural design, correct?
And thank you for mentioning it, because one thing we could state is reasonably, so that there is some reasonableness in that.
Substantially.
Right.
Okay.
And actually, the one area that really makes a difference, and I believe it was mentioned that the HOA has some requirements regarding parking and what can be stored on a lot versus not. I maybe misunderstood that, but those are the things that I would maybe look and see if there can be some alignment in that, because it can make a big difference in the value of a property.
Right.
And what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do.
So, Madam Mayor, I would just call out the couple of areas that you're talking about for substantial conformity or something like that. So it's not the entire set of CC.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. So with that, I'm just trying to think how we make the motion. So, I've got written down a single-story, 10-foot rear setback, really following code as it is stated, because it does in every regard. And then the substantial alignment with the adjoining neighborhood CCNRs as it relates to
Architectural character.
and vehicle usage of properties, what can be stored on a property, fencing, that sort of thing.
The only other question I had was fencing. It wasn't mentioned. Is there fencing required? in the zone.
Is this working? Yeah, I believe that the landscape plan provided fencing on this. Let's see if I can get to it. Yeah.
6 foot?
There's fencing being provided, yes, on the plan.
6 foot? Okay, side obscuring. Oh, there it is. There's a detail of it.
Yeah.
It's vinyl.
Thank you. Okay, is there any other discussion? Okay, Randy, are you going to do the honors?
Sure.
Thank you.
Well, I would make a motion first to allow the annexation and zoning to RS7. I guess I can do this all in one motion, is that correct? And
it is-
to approve the preliminary plat as presented in our packet for the La Paloma, Bianca, is that correct? Blanca subdivision. And that a development agreement be attached to the approval that would include that all of the homes in the proposed development would be single level, that the setbacks would be per our RS7 zone, except that a 10-foot minimum rear yard setback would be on each of the lots, and that architectural character shall be provided from the developer to our P&Z Commission as a part of their proposed CCNRs. Is that correct? Did I say that? Substantial compliance?
Substantial consistency with the neighboring
Okay.
CCNRs.
You get
Not,
that, Char?
and not just on the architectural design, but on, I don't know how to word that.
That's why we have an
How-
attorney here.
Yeah, how would you word that? Yeah?
Madam Chair, if I might, I guess, or excuse me, Madam Mayor, substantial conformity regarding parking and storage on the property.
Maybe, yeah.
Add that.
They may not have a lot of regulations in that regard, but most do have some.
And with that, I'll just,
And all
That'll be it.
conditions listed in the staff report.
right, and all conditions of approval listed in the staff report.
I'll second that.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? None? Roll call.
Brunner,
Yes.
Chingula,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Bauer, Rodriguez,
Yes?
Haverfield.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
You're going to have a great little subdivision there. Congratulations.
You're gonna have a lot of
Yes, and
traffic
thank
around it.
you. Thank you very much. That concludes that public hearing, and we'll move on to 7.3 on the agenda. This is an annexation and zoning to RS6 zoning district and potential development agreement at 11030 West Orchard Avenue. This is for the Nampa Church of the Brethren. Is the applicant here this evening? Parker, is our applicant here this evening?
They may not have somebody here. This is pretty straightforward. They don't really have to be here. So if you don't mind, I can proceed.
Please, thank you.
The action requested is approval or denial of the annexation and zoning to RS6. This was per an agreement with the signalization of the intersection there. We would be procuring an amount of right-of-way for that intersection to be completed, and we would provide utility connections in return, and they would be annexing as part of the agreement. So we've since completed the intersection, so this is the result of that, submitting for annexation. It matches the surrounding zoning of RS6. There's some county land around it as well. There's a exhibit of what was done. As I said, it's already been completed. The property is contiguous. The zoning matches the area. That's really about it. I can proceed to a motion and any questions that you may have.
Excuse me, council, do you have any questions? Okay, yes.
Sorry. Their desire, as far as for annexation and zoning, is that to hook to utilities? Is that their desire, or are they, I didn't see that in the staff report.
Mayor and councilman, the agreement was that they would be giving an amount of right-of-way for the intersection improvements. The city would be providing utility connections, and we would be striping their parking lot. So that was the agreement.
But as far as hooking up to city services at this time, is that their intent?
Yes.
Okay.
So will they be subject to impact fees with that, or will we be waiving that as part of the agreement? Or was that discussed?
They're not building anything, so I don't
Okay, so there will
believe
be
it would
no
apply.
fees associated. We're waiving hookup fees, though, for,
Correct.
okay, and what about a utility with hookup fees? No additional impact fees, nothing?
I will refer
I just want to clarify.
Daniel.
Mayor, the hookup fees were paid via the right-of-way or the right-of-way contract with Nampa Highway District. So they were not waived. They were paid, just not by the church.
Okay.
And so they were connected prior to the impact fees for utilities coming in. So they did not pay those. If they were to connect something new later on, they would be paying those new fees and the new impact fees at that time.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, any other questions for Parker? Okay, so this is a public hearing, but there isn't anyone signed up to testify in favor of or in opposition to this. Is there anyone here this evening that had intended to testify on this particular item? Seeing none. And at this point, I think I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, are there any questions or further discussion? Yes.
So a question for staff, is there any reason to have a development agreement language added to this? Is there anything that we need to add to what's already been stated?
Mayor and councilman, they aren't developing anything, so there's really nothing to,
And their intent is to hook up to water and sewer.
they've already done so.
Oh, okay.
It's,
So that's nothing to add to it as a requirement.
right.
Okay. And then you said as far as the purchase sale or whatever it took place, as far as the land exchange, they were compensated or they compensated back, so. Okay.
Correct.
All right, thanks.
Okay. And the motion is on the board up there, or in front of us, I should say.
Mayor, I'll make the motion to approve the annexation and zoning to RS6 for zoning district for the Napa Church of the Brethren as presented to us in our packet with all conditions of approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Pingula.
Yes.
Bauer. Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Our last public hearing this evening is an action item. This is a zoning map amendment from suburban residential to two-family duplex residential and a potential development agreement and subdivision preliminary plat for Sierra Meadows subdivision at 3 South Sugar Street. This is for David Crawford, representing Robert Corral. Is the applicant with us this evening? Good evening. Thank you for coming forward. I think you have 10 minutes, and give your name and address and share with us what you'd like to do.
Mayor, council members, my name is David Crawford with Centurion Engineers. We are representing the applicant on this project. Project is a little under 2 acres. It's a 4-unit, 4 fourplexes that are proposed to be provided or proposed to be constructed on the property. It actually connects to another development that was recently approved called Sugar Creek Townhomes directly to the project's south and west boundary. We believe that we are also asking for a rezone to RD to accommodate for the multi-family structures on the property. We believe that this is going to be an attractive asset when it's done for the city of Napa, and it's consistent with the other projects in the area. Excuse me. We have access to water, sewer, and pressurized irrigation in 3rd Street. The property slopes dramatically to the west, and it follows the roadway on the project's north boundary to where it crosses under a viaduct. So there's quite a bit of slope coming off on that side of the property and also to the Sugar Creek Townhomes project. So we've structured it such as we have enough separation in the buildings to be able to continue the grading. We also have provided for subsurface stormwater disposal, and we have revised our approach from to connect to the Sugar Creek Townhomes as they were required to provide us access. We have proposed that we continue the right-in, right-out portion of our access onto 3rd Street in case agreement isn't reached or the entrance is never built. We went through that with the Planning and Zoning Commission in detail, and the conditions of approval as written in this one we certainly agree with, and we stand and ask for your approval this evening.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions for our applicant this evening?
Mayor, just
Yes.
to be clear, 16 multifamily units, correct? And are they 2 and 3 bedroom type units? Do you know?
Mayor, Councilmember Haverfield, we believe that they're 4-unit. We don't know the exact number of bedrooms for each one of them yet. The buildings haven't been thoroughly designed at this particular point. But there is going to be 4 units with a range primarily from 1 to 3 bedrooms. It's what we normally see in these
16
ones.
16 units, okay. Because the parking requirement is less for a single bedroom unit versus a 2 or 3. So just so that you're aware of that.
Correct, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for our applicant? Okay, so as you know, you will come back at the end. And so thank you very much. We'll have you right back.
Thank you.
Christy?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. The request before you this evening is for a rezone from RA to RD to provide for a preliminary plat for the Sierra Meadows subdivision at 3 South Sugar Street. This property is in the city limits, and it requires a rezone to accommodate the proposed development. This entire area is in the medium-density residential designation, and most of it is zoned RD already. The surrounding land uses are a mixture of single-family townhouses, apartments, multifamily type buildings, and single-family residences. Staff supports the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation of approval based on the findings that go along with the criteria that you will need to see for a rezone. The property is in a medium density designation on the future land use map, therefore the RD zoning is consistent with that. The area around it is zoned RD, and the properties are used for higher density housing. This property is completely surrounded by those zones. This property would not create a spot zone, and it does provide a variety of housing types and opportunities to Nampa citizens. So according to that analysis, staff can reasonably recommend that the commission approve, or that the council approve this rezone request. There was an extensive traffic conversation based on the access onto 3rd Street between the Sugar Creek Townhouse subdivision final plat that is currently going through the review process. The engineering department has required a cross-access easement on Lot 9 for the Sierra Meadows subdivision, and the applicant has stated that they do anticipate reaching an agreement with them to create the access compliance with our engineering codes. So in regards to the plat, this particular project has been on our books since long before our original code changes in October of 2021. Therefore, it meets a very old code. It does not have the same parking requirements that we are familiar with today. And the property lot sizes must be within that 14,000 square foot range for a 4-plex unit. So in this case, the lot size range from 14,100 square feet to 19,860 square feet. Therefore, the plat is deemed compliant in that regard. There is no compatibility requirement in the RD zone based on the fact that it is surrounded by duplexes and triplexes at this time. The property width is 50 feet, therefore it is compliant with that regard. The parking requirement is 2 per dwelling unit, plus any ADA spaces that are required by building code. So as far as what they've proposed, the required number would be 32 spaces. They have proposed 45 standard spaces, plus 2 ADA spaces, so they have exceeded that code. The city's water and sewer systems have adequate capacity to serve this property and are readily available within the area. The police have mentioned that it is 1.4 miles from the police station, and fire station number 1 is 1.3 miles away. The nearest library is 1.4 miles away. The nearest park is 1 mile away. It is 1.1 miles from Park Ridge Elementary. It is 1/2 mile from Endeavor, which makes it within walking distance. East Valley Middle School is 3.2 miles away and not within walking distance, and Columbia High School is 2.2 miles away. So we received standard correspondence from the Building Department and the Parks Department, all talking about the standard requirements from Title IV and then the 10-foot wide multi-use side path that will be along 3rd Street. The forester has reviewed the landscape plan. There is a request for a new unique street name from GIS. The Nampa Meridian Irrigation District has asked for a license agreement, and the fire department has indicated a need for an increase of 0.06 firefighter positions. And the engineering division has requested some changes as noted with the access. Those are all shown in the conditions of approval. Condition of approval number 3 is the one that was added by Planning and Zoning, and that states that if the Sugar Creek Townhomes access is agreed to, that the Sugar Street access shall be converted to emergency access only. If the Sugar Creek Townhomes access cannot be agreed to, then the right-in, right-out can remain on 3rd Street. So that's what was added at the last hearing. So should you choose to approve the rezone, these are the recommended conditions of approval, and these are the potential motions. I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Christy. So yes. Councilman Bauer?
I saw that you had the amount of firefighters. How many police were needed? The hypothetical number for this project?
I'll grab my
Usually
staff report. I'm not sure I got a report back on that one. So let me grab my staff report and I can maybe answer that question for you.
Mayor Queen?
Yes.
So before you grab that report, is there an open space requirement for this development?
There is not under the old code,
Under the new code, what would it be?
5%.
5% for open space, does that include the road system or just landscape area?
Qualified open space is usable open space that provides an amenity to the tenants, so it would not be the drive aisles.
Or parking spaces? Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
As mayor, question for legal then on that. So since this is an old code, we cannot require as a condition of approval or whatever, the 5% open space?
Madam Mayor and Councilmember Brunner, compliance with the code is your minimum. If you can articulate some kind of impact and need for that condition in a development agreement, I think you could do that, but it'd have to be something specific to this project that says we need additional open space to
I guess the
satisfy.
main question we can ask the applicant when he comes back, but I take it this is not an all-adult occupied complex, that this could be a family complex. So that there would be kids living here, so I guess that would be my argument would be that there needs to be some open space if it is a family apartment.
Madam Mayor and Councilmember Brunner, you can certainly inquire and also gauge what you may hear from public testimony.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor?
Yes.
As a follow-up then, Christie, since they're exceeding the parking requirement by several, a development agreement then could be attached to this that would maybe eliminate some of the surplus parking spaces to allow there to be a tot lot of some type.
Councilman Haverfield, if you look at the large lot right there on the top right corner, that's got a
space.
lot of space in it. So an amenity could potentially be just put in the yard area of that.
Would that be in the yard area, though, of that fourplex? And since these are individual lots, do they control who uses it, or is it a common use agreement that's a part of the development?
Well, as part of the shared access agreement, maintenance and those kinds of things, we can certainly make the amenity lot a shared access.
Would it be is it on its own lot?
No.
Okay, so it would be a part of that first lot coming in. So is that something that we should include in the development agreement to give you the language to work with?
You can make it a condition of approval for the rezone.
Okay.
We don't necessarily need to do a full-on development agreement for something like that. Basically, what I would do at that time is I would take those conditions of approval when the final plat comes in, and I would look for maybe an actual easement area on the final plat that designates it as maybe a recreation easement or a shared area of some kind.
And is there a pathway to the main road there that's internal, that's a sidewalk that's defined? It kind of looks like there might be, that would go past that lot to allow there to be
Yes,
an
there
access.
is a 6-foot wide sidewalk along the entire length of the parking area that goes clear out to that 10-foot wide sidewalk on Third.
So ADA parking being required, or being a part of this development, being required to be a part of it, they would have to have ADA compliant pathways to the main road as well.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Mayor, just a question for Christy. Christy, with the additional parking that they do have there, where does it align with the new code that we've put into place? Is it compliant with the new code?
Councilwoman Jangula, since I don't know the bedroom counts for these
Oh,
units,
right.
it would be hard for me to calculate that at that time. Sorry.
It does? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Are there any other questions for
I'll
Christy?
grab my staff report, and as soon as I have an answer, I'll answer it, but we
Yeah.
can, there's no police report in it.
Okay,
I did
thank
not
you
get a
for
letter
looking.
from them, sorry.
So Mayor, as a follow-up
So-
then, the ADA parking spaces, does the new code require that there be one per building? Or just one per 25, or 20%, or whatever it might be?
I believe it's the 1 per 25 when we have a shared access agreement for the entire development. Otherwise, if they choose not to do the shared access agreement, then it's 1 per building.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because it's, I mean, if they're both in the back of the development and someone needs to get up to one of the front buildings, it's a little bit difficult if there's not a parking space provided for them near their front entrance.
That's correct.
So I have a quick question. So there is open space actually evident in these plans. The reason why you didn't put that in as open space is because it wasn't required?
Per code
Is
at
per
that
code.
time.
But do you have an idea of what percentage of open space that is?
We may have to ask David to see if he can tell us what that is.
Okay. Because we don't have any idea. I think in the future, I'd be really interested to know, even though it isn't required, because what I think I'm understanding is, even though it, according to the old, it wasn't required, actually, if we're going to approve a requested rezone, we can put conditions of approval on that. And it would be nice to put a condition of approval of open space, because that is our standard today and the expectation. So I would be curious to know what percentage of open space is currently represented. Can I ask that, Todd? Legal?
Madam Mayor, I'm okay with the statement. What I put a little finer point on it, I guess, to say you need to have a specific articulatable reason to include a condition versus just our current code requires it. So if you can tie it to some impact or something from this project, great, you can include that.
So like the welfare of the residents that live there for their health and well-being, that there is open space provided for children in a play area?
Madam Mayor and Councilmember Brunner mentioned that. You can talk about your baby children, we want to keep them on site. That kind of thing would be
Right.
related to this
For
specific.
safety purposes, we would like playground area provided on-site for children that live there so that they're safe and not having to go someplace else to play. Okay,
That was the premise of my question.
yes.
So as a follow-up, Christie, in the new code, is there a requirement for the open space to be on its own lot? I don't think that there is.
Yeah, not in so many words.
No, Meridian and Boise has this, you have to have a separate lot identified for
Yeah,
that.
and typically, typically they do just for ease of maintenance. And we can certainly look at the codes to see if we want to require that. But usually they do it for their own purposes anyway.
There's quite a bit of landscape area here. I would imagine they'd have a common maintenance agreement for the development. But I think it's important, as the mayor pointed out, that we have a defined area for the kids to play. And you had mentioned that that could be an easement. That would be off of the main pathway that's connecting all of the units to the main road. So the kids can move on a safe surface to get to those play areas.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Thank you, Christy.
Thank you.
So this is a public hearing, but there is no one signed up to testify in favor of or in opposition to this. Is there anyone here this evening that had intended to testify that did not get signed up? Okay, seeing no one, this is not, you're ready to go for our applicant to come and provide closing comments. Thank you.
Mayor, council members, thank you for hearing us tonight. I've certainly listened to the conversation. As you're aware, if I could pull that map back up of the overall preliminary plat, there is a large area of open space, and it's pretty centralized up in that northeast corner, northeast corner, and then a large area between the two buildings. So we kind of did that on purpose and put parking on the other side of the project so that we centralize the open space, so that we have a landscape plan where we placed a gazebo and a dog park. And I was just speaking with the owner's representative, and we have no problem putting in like a little barbecue area in there where people can congregate up in there. The one interesting thing about open space is if it's per lot or on its own lot, we may not have enough room for a large amount of open space on the southerly side of the project because it's all common to the entire development, like the parking lot. So we can certainly incorporate maintenance obligations. That's certainly the apartment's duty as their rentals. They're renting to the owners or renting to the public in there. So as I stated, I think we've got adequate open space to serve what we already have provided, and we could go ahead and add a barbecue area as well for the residences.
So Mayor, just let me follow up on the original question, which you heard. So your understanding then, the plan is for these rentals to be family friendly?
Oh, you betcha, yeah, absolutely.
And so to make, if it's going to be family friendly, then we're going to have the barbecue, but then an opportunity for a small tot lot of some sort for the kids, so they don't have to go off property?
Excuse me.
I guess I'm looking over here
Councilmember
too.
Bruner, Mayor. We could certainly explore the opportunity. We do have a gazebo plan for the area. Maybe we can replace that with the tot lot or move it to another location.
If you could have family, I guess for me to pass this, there's going to need to be some type of, something conducive for kids to be on site. So, okay, thanks.
Mayor Kling.
Yes.
So, Mr. Crawford, since you have an abundance of parking provided above and beyond, would you have any concern about adding 2 more handicap parking spaces up towards the first 2 buildings? Because it appears the only 2 parking spaces are at the back 2. You could combine them into one location. You'd eliminate 1 parking space with the aisle between the 2. Is that an issue for you?
Councilmember Haverfield, Mayor, no, it's not an issue for us to add the 2 parking stalls. The one thing that we had already explored that option, and we're looking forward to integrating that into our site plan. The interesting conundrum we have here is the slope along the project. So we initially graded it out, and then we modified our grading, so we changed it. Our only concern with that is maintaining the pedestrian corridor out to the street. So the location would have to be at a point where we could maintain the correct cross slopes. So we could certainly explore that opportunity. And I was initially looking at the site where there's 4 stalls on the first northeast building there. It's it's got a landscape planner and there's 4 stalls kind of sitting there by itself. We
Right.
could definitely, that's probably a more likely location where one may fit.
That's what I was looking at, because you could easily get across, so both of those could be easily connected with parking spaces for the handicap. So, and if you're creating the slope to the main street to meet ADA requirements, and they should be able to, you should be able to get across the street that way.
Councilmember Haverfield, Mayor, yes, this is, that's exactly what we were looking. The issue with having a handicap parking on the south lots, or the southeast lot there, is that there will be ramps that have to drop the sidewalk down to meet up with the building floors. So that was a more difficult location to put one in. So perhaps we could look for adding another handicap stall. I'd be on the southwest side of that far southwest building.
So I'm sorry, Mayor. So these buildings are going to be stacked fourplexes, so level down, a level above it? So they're not interior 2-level, there's just one level with another level above it for the second unit, is that correct?
Councilmember Haverfield, Mayor, yeah. That's, we're looking at 2-story stacked, a garden-style entry approach.
Okay, so all of your lower level units will have to meet the Fair Housing Act requirements for handicap accessibility anyway. So
That could be.
that will be the requirement. So handicap parking, handicap accessibility into the buildings, it's important that that's all worked out from the civil standpoint.
Councilmember Haverfield, Mayor, yeah, we have, I had an architect do an accessibility assessment on this project when we brought it in, just to make sure that it was compliant. So we'll definitely go through that again prior to construction, obviously, or permits.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for the applicant? Do you have any closing comments?
Mayor?
Other than what you've
I
already
don't.
shared? Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
thank you very much. Okay, if we know that there are no other questions for applicant, we're for sure we're done? I'll stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, council discussion.
Mayor, one thing for me is not knowing the police number for this development. I think a lot of our responsibility is making sure that we're developing with public safety in mind. And if we don't know that number, then we could be straining police. And then also, it's our responsibility to make sure growth is funding growth, with police being our highest ticket item on our budget. Part of growth funding growth is making sure that development is helping pay for some of that. So I just feel like without knowing what that number would be, how can we approve this without that? Or can we put
Well,
it into our condition that they
Actually,
apply to that?
Let's just identify, I believe it's 2.5. Is it the average occupancy of a unit is 2.5 and there's 16 units? So Rodney and Christie, could you give us an estimate of what that is? So is that correct that it's 2.5? Is the average occupancy it's 40, and then you take that, so for 40 units, it would be a 0.0, it'd be very small impact on police. It's very, very small.
Very short officer then.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
it's less than the fire, and the fire was at
Yeah, where's Brad?
0.06, so it's going to be like at 0.04.
Okay, 0.04. Yeah. So it's very minimal. Yeah.
Or short architect, one of the other.
They would hire you anytime.
So it's very minimal impact at 0.04, probably, approximately.
Is there
for
a way
this
we can
particular
add that
one.
in there? I mean, every dollar is a dollar, and that's our highest expense, so I feel like we should be making
Yes.
sure.
Daniel?
Mayor, Councilman Jangula, so these projects will pay police impact fees. For that, if you're looking at them funding the officers, that's not something necessarily that the impact fees are allowed to do. They're only allowed to do capital. And so these projects will pay their proportionate share of those impact fees as adopted by council.
So when you have in there the point whatever 06 of the fire, that's in addition to the impact fee though, correct? Or is it
Those,
conjoined?
Mayor and Councilman Jangelo, those are just the numbers that the police and fire departments have given as this development is equivalent to this many staff member needed as this develops. And it's incumbent upon city council to fund the operation and maintenance side and salaries of that. The capital or the impact fees are allowed to fund the capital needs for that. So fire trucks, fire cars, or not fire cars, police cars, office space for those people, but not the actual salaries. The state code does not allow that. That has to come from other funding sources.
Okay. Thank you, Daniel.
Mayor? Are
Yes.
we in discussion?
We are in discussion, and,
You go first.
okay.
Sorry, Mayor, I just wanted maybe to put it just real quickly another way. When you see those numbers on the staff report, they're helping to show that there is a need as you approve developments. And then at budget time, that is used to support their argument that they need additional officers. So that's informational only. You're not approving any additional resources for officers as each of these projects come before you.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilman Bauer.
We're in discussion, right?
Yes, we are.
So I do think as a council, when talking about this action item, we need to bring that up every time because, the police officers' money isn't going to grow on trees. So I think it's important that we talk about it every time. At the same time, or I guess another part of it is, apartments do have a higher police reporting to them than other types of living situations. That's just a fact. But also, I do like this area that is surrounded by other apartments, and there's. I think we need to be smart as a council on where we approve these type of developments and where we don't. And in my mind, the compatibility around this area with other apartments, it's a decent area where this can go in. So open to other comments from the council, but those are just my thoughts on this action item.
Thank you for your comments. Any other comments from council? Okay, what is the will of the council?
Did we close the public hearing?
Yes, we did. So right now, we're ready for council motion. If there is a motion,
Mayor Kling, I
which is stated.
could venture out with a motion if you'd like,
Yes.
unless you wanted to, Dale. Okay. You just had that pause that, okay. My microphone's on. So I would make a motion to approve the zoning map amendment from RA to RD with a potential development agreement that would include language that would require an additional 2 ADA parking spaces to be provided for the development. So that would create a total of 4 ADA spaces, eliminating one of the standard spaces, knowing that they still exceed the requirement. That the, gosh, there wasn't a whole lot more.
Common maintenance, so
Yeah.
if we, do what's in front of us right here. It's right in front of you if you want to use this one.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
Yeah,
And that with all conditions listed in the staff report, but including that a play areas be provided between the first and second buildings. I don't see that layout. That would be identified for we talked about creating easements for those play areas for the common use of the people that are living within the development. I lost Christie.
do we need, she's there, do we need a common maintenance agreement? We had talked about that, a common maintenance agreement.
There will be one required anyway
Anyway.
for the parking area, so we can just add that to it. It'd be part of it.
Okay,
So that would be a part of the requirement to maintain the tot lot areas?
Yes.
Okay. So with that, I assume then that we've covered everything that we talked about.
so that is a motion with all conditions listed in the staff report.
Yes, that was my first statement.
Is there a second?
Is that, Char, did you catch that? Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. I just have a quick point of discussion and a question. You were real specific on where that tot lot was to be located. Do we want to be that specific, or do we just want to be specific that they incorporate a tot lot in their development?
We actually talked about 2 play areas. One as you're coming in on the right, and then between the 2 buildings, there was another large area of, that could be used for purposes.
Let's go back and look at that. So there's one on there's a larger area on I don't know if that's the northeast side. I don't know if this is all right there.
Right.
And then there's one in between the buildings. But I guess the question I have, do we want to be so specific, or do we just want to ask that they include a tot lot?
Well, that they include play areas.
Play areas for kids, rather than specifically stating it in a motion?
Yeah, that'd be open for play areas for the kids.
Okay.
Knowing that there's a common maintenance agreement that's going to take care of a whole development, so that, and then the pathway is there for the kids to be able to access both of those locations. That's the intent, at least of my motion.
Okay.
So Mayor, just clarification, what I'm hearing from Councilman Haverfield is that plural or dual play areas, just not a singular play area.
Yeah, that those open areas can be used by the kids.
Okay, rather than one being a picnic area or whatever, they would both be play areas.
Well, if the developer chooses to create a picnic area, I guess that's on them, but it's an open recreation area for kids, and I guess would be available for adults too. So that would be something that would have to be monitored by whoever is managing the development, so that it's not abused.
We've had a second, so.
Okay, did we amend it? Okay, who seconded it?
I did.
Do you will second
Yes,
this?
I'll second the new
Yeah,
motion.
okay.
Just for a point of clarification, we are taking out between first and second building, correct?
Right, we're just saying that there's 2, is that under, correct?
open areas.
2 open areas. Okay.
Madam Mayor, I have a
Yes.
question, just to clarify on the ADA parking. Is there not a code that dictates how many spaces they're going to have based on the unit type?
They meet it. They meet it with 2.
They meet it with 2?
Okay.
But I've asked for an additional 2 so that there's 2 closer to those front buildings. Because right now, the 2 parking spaces are near the back buildings.
Okay.
New code would require something closer, I would think. But
Is there any further
developer said-
discussion? Oops, I'm sorry, is there any further discussion?
No, just a question.
Okay.
Christie, we're okay with all this that we're putting before you? Okay.
Yes, I have as a condition in the development agreement, an area designated in an easement for gathering space and amenities, 2 open areas to be included in the maintenance agreement for the site.
I think that's what I said. No, she did a lot better job.
And a common, and you said the common maintenance agreement. Okay. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor, really quick, just to state, and I know we don't have to put this in here, but it would be my very strong preference if there's 2 areas and one's play and then one is designated for gathering, that the play is the one that's centrally located in the middle and not out on the edge.
By the road?
Yeah, just putting that out there.
Mayor?
That would be my preference.
This is a follow-up question to Christie. I should have asked this before. Is there a requirement for any of these parking spaces to be covered under the old code?
There is not.
And these, Mayor, I'm sorry, we keep adding on this. These are all interior parking spaces, nothing's on the exterior, correct? Okay, thanks.
You talking garages?
What's that?
You talking garages?
No, I'm just talking that we're not going to be driving by and seeing a bunch of cars on the outside of these units.
Yeah, you will. There's no covered parking.
Well, my question was if there's an interior drive, then if all the cars would be on the inside of these units. That's not the case?
They're parked in front of the units.
You can see it there, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't have the architectural vision that some do.
Mayor and council, if I understand Councilman Bruner's question, none of the parking spaces are fronting Third Street
Okay.
or Sugar Street.
That's what was my concern.
That's correct.
Okay.
I thought you were talking about garages or covered.
No, I'm just talking about interior sightlines and not exterior sightlines.
So I'm going to ask, as much as we want to get done, one more question, Rodney. Is there fencing required? What is the adjoining property next to all these parking spaces? And is there fencing planned or required?
Our subdivision code does require perimeter fencing, 6-foot vinyl fencing.
Vinyl
And-
fencing?
Yeah, so
Okay.
with the final plat landscape plan, that will be identified there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, are there any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, I think we're ready for roll call.
Brunner,
Yes.
Jingula,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Okay, so we may take a break, but before we do that, I want to ask a quick question. We have some people sitting out here, and I'm curious what you're here for.
It's really nothing this monumental. I'm trying to get a private street name approved so that I can build a single-family residence in South Tampa.
So are you here for the,
6-6, I think is what it is.
okay, South Tiger Lily? Okay. And then, so, and you guys are done to move forward. Hopefully you have the clarity that you need as you move forward, and thank you for working on this development. Thank you so much. Okay, so, and the rest are staff that are here. And Hubert, are you going to stay through the whole meeting? Are you here for something in particular?
He's for Tom.
6-9.
Mayor.
Okay, so I'd like to go ahead and take 6-6 right now before we take a quick break. So then you guys can go home. I'm sorry that you've been waiting so long. Okay, good. I'm glad you've enjoyed it.
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah. So
Is that why you were shaking your head?
we're going to do 6-6. So we're going to move right now to new business, item 6-6 on the agenda. This is an action item. This is the first reading of a street naming ordinance for South Tiger Lily Lane.
Mayor, just a
And it
quick.
is requested to pass under suspension of rules.
Okay, and I'm going to make the motion to approve this, but what, you have to read it first? Can I ask a
Okay.
question first, though, before you read it? I'm not going to make a motion before you read it. What's the reason that council is doing, this is coming before council on street names? Why is it our responsibility? Is there an ordinance that I need to ask for to be changed?
That
It's the
is,
first reading of ordinance, yes.
Yes.
Mayor and council, that is the way the city code is set up, that street names are adopted via ordinance that are not done with a plat. And if you
Not be done-
would like us to look at changing that code, I would say we
Well,
would
it
be
doesn't
okay
come
doing
before us
that.
very often, but to me, it doesn't make sense for it to come before council. You guys could handle this very well, so anyway, go ahead.
So before we read the ordinance, I do have a quick question. I understand this is a flower, right? Can you remind me why you chose the
I thought it
flower?
was somebody's mom.
Yeah, it's a sentimental thing. My mom passed in June, and that was her.
Favorite flower? Good for you.
Good for you.
I'm so sorry for the loss of your mom, and good for you. That's wonderful. Okay, shall we read the ordinance?
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, naming a private street South Tiger Lily Lane.
So moved.
It is requested to pass under suspension, so moved under,
Under suspension of rules.
seconded.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the street naming ordinance of South Tiger Lily Lane.
Thank you, guys.
Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Need a vote.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Jingula,
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Now you can go.
Now you can go. And good for you to honor your mom.
I'm sure
Good for
you'll
you.
want to come back next meeting too, though.
Yeah. Thank you.
We'll be here.
So, do we need it? Hubert, do you mind waiting for a break? All right, would you be okay? Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break and then let's see if we can get done.
All right.
Okay. Need to get started. Okay. Monty, thank you for waiting. Hi, how are you? Okay, we are going to be ready for item 6.5 on the agenda. Or we could just go to 6.9 real quickly for Hubert, but we'll get through these. We'll just go straight down from here on. So, and I'm sorry, Monty. You're having to wait too. Okay. So item 6.5 on the agenda is an action item. This is to authorize the mayor to sign a construction agreement with RM Mechanical to replace the Harward Recreation Center boilers in the amount of and not to exceed $192,353.
So move.
Second.
Mayor,
Yes.
Randy was first, and I'll go.
Okay.
Well, you're the mechanical guy, why don't you go first? You'll answer my question.
I just had a question about, I assume we got 3 bids?
Councilman, yes, we do have 3 bids. This was the low bid, considering the 2 alternates that are included. Alternate 1 is adding a 3rd boiler rather than 2, and then alternate 2 is the control system, adding the control system that correlates with the pool, the swimming pool boilers that were done a couple years ago.
Okay, so there was a spec that was written on this, and everybody bid to the same spec?
Correct, yes. It was engineered, and so we worked with the facilities department, and so Brian wasn't able to be here tonight, but we did work with the facilities department. There was a pre-bid meeting where I think there were 5 or 6 companies that came to the pre-bid meeting. Fulcher Engineering, they're the ones that designed it, and so it has full schematics, and that includes electrical and plumbing for this particular project. So it's spec'd out in detail.
And the controls are compatible with what's there already?
That is alternate number 2 will be, the controls will be compatible with the boilers that are in the pool room with the swimming pools that were done a couple years ago.
Okay, is it a DDC system, or, do you know?
I don't know. What's a DC? Might have to explain it to me.
It's a digital system.
Oh,
that you control
yes.
From anywhere.
Correct, yes, yeah. It's internet compatible, that you can control it from offsite.
Okay, yeah, I just don't like to see, especially the city would get into a proprietary system that would cost us a lot of money to change in the future. Like a Johnson Control system is proprietary, and we have to hire them to work on it, so, thank you.
Mayor Quinn. In looking through the bid form, it indicated that there was a bid bond, obviously, that was provided by the bidders, and a performance bond required within 10 days. But what about this is for performance, what about payment of materials, payment bond? There's usually a second bond that's required that I didn't see listed here. You only had performance.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think we requested 2 bid bonds.
So there's not there's a performance, but not a payment of material payment bond.
Yeah.
Is that normal practice?
We did have this reviewed by legal, and so I'm not familiar that if it's required by law to have the 2 bonds.
Okay. The other question I have then is the commencement of work within 7 days. What is the stated timeframe? And is there liquidated damages as a part of the contract?
Yeah, we don't have liquidated damages on this particular event. It will be able to be conducted during open operating times, and so Yeah, we won't have any downtime on.
I'm not worried
on
about you,
this.
I'm just worried about them performing it within a period of time that, I mean, if they're going to take 2 years, 3 years to get this done, and they're going to use COVID as an excuse, if there's nothing that's really tying them back to a time frame for completion of the project, how do you know what that's going to be? How do you work around that scheduling-wise? Is that defined anywhere? I didn't see it as far as in the contract.
Yeah, I'm not certain, but we could put that in the contract, and give them a particular time.
Okay, so you think they'd be open to that?
I do.
Okay, so yeah, I think it would be important that you do look at trying to tie them, because they're going to give you a schedule. They're going to tell you what their anticipated timeline is. So once you get that, hit them to it. State, it'd be nice if you could get that done even in advance of that. I know they're going to use availability of materials and different equipment. I know that's been the common excuse in the last few months for a lot of construction projects. So thanks, Darren.
Yeah, we can do that.
You did a really good job answering all those questions.
Tough
So,
questions, they're tough.
I don't know, have we had a motion? We did have a motion, this was discussion. Thank you, I lost it in the discussion, so is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Jingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Bauer. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you, Darren. Now we're ready to move to item 6.7 on the agenda. This is an action item. This is to authorize the Public Works staff to proceed with negotiations for right-of-way acquisition required to construct the recycled water pipeline project up to the estimated amount of $160,000.
So move.
Second.
I have a question.
Okay? It's been moved and seconded, and Tom, are you answering tonight? Thank you. Councilman Haverfield.
So is this a part of the SRF loan? Or is this separate, where's the money coming from?
So, well, in our wastewater funding plan for everything at the plant, it's a combination of SRF loan and the rate increases that we've asked for. So we didn't specifically earmark either one of them, so we have a bucket of funding that is a combination of both. So we'll cover it
Okay.
through one of those sources.
I just didn't know if it was out of the general fund or if it's, in addition, but it doesn't sound like it's a part of the
Yeah.
progressive
Council
design
Haver-
build.
Yeah, Council Haverfield is not a general fund. This is enterprise money.
Thank you.
Yep.
Are there any other questions? Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we authorize the Public Works staff to proceed with negotiations for the right-of-way acquisition for the recycled pipeline up to $160,000. If there's no further discussion, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Bauer. Reynolds.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 6.8 that Monty's been waiting for this evening is an action item. This is the Public Works requesting approval of a rate sheet and authorize the mayor to sign a resolution implementing a 4.5% increase to the existing airport land lease and rental fees for fiscal year FY 2023.
So moved.
Move. My only comment would be that it probably needs to be a little higher, but so move as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. And on discussion, you can go the 4.5% without a public hearing. Anything over requires a public hearing.
Okay, so we can go 4.9?
Yep, nope.
4.5 is fine.
Okay.
So, Mayor.
Yes.
So if Monty can come up just quickly, we still have quite a backlog of people wanting hangar space, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so the rate increase you don't feel is going to cause anybody harm that are currently in those hangars needing to leave, but we have people wanting those spaces anyway, so it's not an issue of concern about losing, our renters,
Yeah,
basically.
Councilman Haberfield, no, there's no chance.
No.
anyone's-
4.5, you don't see them.
Councilman Brunner says our rates are fairly reasonable at this point. Next year, I think with the the way the inflation index is going, it'll be above that 5%.
How do we compare with Caldwell?
Well, Caldwell, see, our rates, we have city rentals, and then we also have our lease rates. And Caldwell only has lease rates. Our lease rates right now are 32.1 cents a square foot annually, and Caldwell, last I heard, was 22.7. So we're
Thank
about
you.
30% higher than Caldwell.
I shut my mic off, but if Gary Barlow has any more hangers, can you raise this, please?
Gary Barlow, he's a good guy.
So my comment on the 4.5% increase being not subject to public hearing, one thing that is a good practice is where you have lower incremental increases rather than holding and doing one large increase. And so I think our last increase, we did an increase last year, is that correct? Do you remember off the top
Well, we
of-
do a CPI increase
Right.
every year.
Every year?
It's in our leases and it's in our rental agreements.
Yes. Anyway, so thank you.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
It's my
it's
pleasure.
been,
Thank you. It's a lot of fun.
Monty does a great job. Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Bauer. Jingula,
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, City Council. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Hubert, I'm sorry you had to wait so long, but we're now to your agenda item. So this is item 6.9 on the agenda. It is an action item. It's to authorize the Director of Public Works to sign a letter of intent with the Idaho Water Resource Board requesting 5,000 acre feet of water storage behind, you can go ahead and come forward, Anderson Ranch Dam raise. This has been reviewed and approved by legal. Tom is prepared to go through a PowerPoint if we need it. I think they have seen this before, is that correct?
It's in the packet, so, for some reason it's not sharing. Oh, there, this took a while. So these slides are in the packet, we can go through them if you like. I'll just kind of verbally describe what we're trying to accomplish here. You do have a write-up with the request, so we're requesting council support for us to write a letter to the Department of Water Resources about the water storage for the Anderson Dam raise. Their project is under design, and they're working on environmental right now. They're planning on having this online by 20, this is in the timeline here, 2025, if I remember right. Yeah, construction starting in 25 and water being available in 29. So really what we're asking for is just council support to put in a letter of intent, letting them know that we're interested in the water, but it's not actually committing it to it, because we don't really know what the cost is at this point. And we also put together, Heather Tafoya in our office had put together some information for the Board of Appraisers, information only, knowing 5,000 acre feet is what we're looking at. And then the original cost that the Water Resource Board had come up with was $3,000 per acre. And we'd ran the math, and that's just not even financially feasible for us. So that was part of the message we wanted to get to the board is, yes, we're interested, but we really want to see the user's costs go down in order for us to say yes. And here's the data that shows it. We did provide some of that information to the Water Resource Board, executive assistant to that board, and she said that was very useful information to have and pass it along to the board. So, one also thing to know about this is there are ARPA dollars with that have been provided from the state to the Water Resource Board. So they have $350 million that they can allocate to water sustainability projects across the state. So this is on their list to actually fund with ARPA dollars. So really, when we talked to the Department of Water Resources about the cost, they said we realize it's 3,000 is pretty high. And with ARPA dollars, we're gonna go ahead and fund this project, but it's not gonna be necessarily free. We're gonna work towards some sort of cost here later in this next spring of next year. So we've been engaged in attending the Water Resource Board meetings to kind of follow along what's happening. But, so anyway, that's all about the cost, but the reason that this is important to us is because we do have a connection to the Boise River in our impact area, and we could put this directly into our pressurized irrigation system by putting in a new pump and a pipeline to get it to our irrigation station. In talking with the irrigation districts, you know, we've got Pioneer Irrigation District, we've got Nampa Meridian and Boise CUNA. We've got three. The two largest are Pioneer and Nampa Meridian. When we asked them and said, could you take another 5,000 acre feet of water into your irrigation canal and provide that to us as a municipality? One of them said, maybe, I'm not sure. He was a little more positive about it, and that was Nampa Meridian. Pioneer was like, no, that's we're already taxed out on our system, the way it's built. And our prior water rights, it's just, we have declining water in the drains, and to ask us to put more water into the system is gonna be tough. So that's why we're looking at being a little more sustainable with our own system, and getting 5,000 acre feet would be 15% of the demand today. So we're looking at lots of different options to become sustainable. So we've got this project, which would be 15% of our demand. We've got a reuse program, which is another 15%. But you have to keep in mind that those only serve geographic areas. So the reuse 15% is only serving the northwest portion of this city, right? This project that we're talking about would take care of the northeast portion of the city. And we're looking for other things to do on the south with some of our storage ponds. So the last thing that I just want to mention about the distinction between surface water and groundwater. So we really should be, we're recommending in Public Works that we maximize whatever surface water is available first before we start using groundwater as irrigation. Because that's a concern of ours long-term for the city to use irrigation water from the groundwater, because the demands are so much higher. So we ran the math and on the numbers and looked at the 3 months that we're irrigating and pulling water into our system. The month of August is 10 times the amount of water needs to come out during that 1 month compared to the domestic. And if you just add up all the months in the year, so the 3 months that you're actually irrigating, there's more water per year annually than we pull out of the ground all year for domestic use. So it's a lot of water. And so we're worried about using groundwater for irrigation. So this is another, we can maximize what's coming down the river and put it into our system. That'll help us be more sustainable.
You know what, Tom, I just want to say real quickly, I applaud you for the work that you're doing. I spoke with some citizens this last week, and the question they asked is, what are we doing about water shortages? And you're being so proactive and thinking down the road, and I just want to say thank you so much for the work you're doing. It's excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome, Mayor. Thanks.
So, Tom, this letter of inclusion that you're having us vote on, so that I assume that legal is taking a close look at it. And so to reassure us that there is no commitment at this point in time, and when Todd's gone, we're gone, the mayor, or whatever, or you're gone, that there's going to be total clarification that we
rain more than.
we were just inquiring. What's that?
It'll rain more. Because you'll be gone.
Well, we'll do more rain dances probably then, yeah. Okay, but that's, I mean, legal is looking closely at this before, okay.
Madam Mayor and Councilmember Brunner, this basically is just us raising our hand saying, hey, we're interested.
Yeah. So there's no commitment or whatever, where they could read it differently 5 years from now. Okay.
Yeah, we'd have to enter into a separate agreement.
Okay, thanks.
Councilman Haverfield?
This is a similar agreement that or a similar, whatever it was that we did for the Cat Creek.
It is, Council
So it's
Hatfield.
just a request that when it's available, we'd be interested in the water.
Right, that's correct.
Mayor Kling.
Yes.
So Tom, so I look at this program, and I think we've done this before on similar. They're saying, we're going to give you this water, but we need to see who's involved with it. You already said they already passed it, right? It's just a matter of who's going to jump on this program. Okay, so here's my question. The questions I have are, why do we have to sign this letter when they already know the information and haven't given it to us yet?
So.
Why do we have to commit ourselves, in other words?
Councilor Rodriguez, it's just raising our hand saying, yes, we're interested. It'll be helpful to get ourselves in line for this, knowing that ARPA dollars are going to fund most of it, and which is going to help us out as a city being able to have a good water at a reasonable cost. Because if it doesn't come down to reasonable cost, we won't be able to sign it.
Okay.
So to actually do a real commitment and financial money exchange.
This would be like a domino, lining up dominoes and then start hitting the first one, because everything else follows after that. How is this going to affect, if we agree, how's this going to affect our reuse permit? How's it going to affect the irrigation? Because the capacity is already overloading, apparently. And the one thing that I'm really concerned with is reaching out to them and saying, yeah, we're kind of looking at, but it's the city of Boise and Meridian already have a contract with this French company, Veolia. They're the ones that hold the land. They're the ones that hold the water. And they designate the direction of the water equals what the cost is. So now we have these other people saying, no, we're going to do this. Are we giving up our rights of water by signing and saying, yeah, we want to jump on? Oh, by the way, we have to pay? No, we don't. See what I mean?
Let's see, there was a lot of
Yeah, there
questions in
was.
there. So let me just start with the Council Rodriguez reuse. So signing this has nothing to do with the reuse at our wastewater plant. They're totally separate actions.
Okay.
As far as water rights go, we're not giving up any water rights. We're actually, I mean, these will be new water rights that are going to be available for anybody that can put them to beneficial use. So other cities could do the same, but like you just pointed out, they've got Veolia Water that's handling their water in Boise, but Meridian does manage their own system. So, and irrigation districts could also take on some of this new water as well, because they're, like I said, the water in the drains is going down, which is becoming an issue for some of the irrigation districts that have don't have the oldest water rights in the valley. Because how it works is, I'm probably answering too much of your question here.
No. But what they're not saying is the amount of money we're going to have to pay out to connect to, like, say, the Boise River or to these canals to get to that water? Or have we already connected to them?
Well,
Or would that be covered in the ARPA money?
So the ARPA, so there, what my statement was about the ARPA dollars, it looks like the Idaho Water Resource Board is going to say yes to funding fully this $80+ million dam raise with the ARPA dollars that they have out of the $350 million. And so that they're going to pay for the project. And so now it's just a matter of how much do we want to charge the users to connect to that? I mean, there's no such thing really as free water. I mean, you have to pay for water rights, you have to pay for, right? Irrigation districts 100 years ago paid for water. Back then, it was a lot cheaper, but it's still something you have to pay for.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions for Tom? Tom, thank you for this presentation. I realize we have not had an action on this yet. We did this first. So what is the will of the council?
So no motion's been made yet.
No.
So I would make the motion to authorize the Director of Public Works, I assume that's you, Tom, to sign the letter of intent as proposed in our packet for the water storage behind Anderson Ranch Dam.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
This won't affect the fishing, will it?
Let's help give them more water.
It'll make it better, Council Brower.
My favorite place to fish.
Yeah.
Better vote yes.
We're not putting up any
See.
dams.
Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
No.
Brunner.
Yes.
Chingula.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
5 in favor, 1 opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Item 610 is an action item. This is to authorize the mayor to sign a letter of commitment for inclusion with each application and authorize the Public Works to submit the North Neighborhood Rail Crossing Study and Karcher I-84 active transportation pathway planning applications to the Reconnecting Communities program.
So move.
I'm sorry, was that a motion? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion, or do you have questions for Tom? Seeing none, roll call.
Chingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Bauer. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 611 is an action item. This is to authorize Waterworks Division to proceed with a letter of intent to purchase the additional meters at the Hydro Specialties Company contract unit price not to exceed the budget amount of $555,033.66. And it is approved in the FY23.
Mayor, it's probably in the packet, but I just wanted to ask, Daniel, how close are we to being done with, I mean, I know we're always going to have to be replacing meters, but are we about done with this phase of replacement?
Mayor, Councilman Brunner, this will be our final year of change outs, and then it will just be maintenance of
Maintenance on it,
change out
and
meters,
the
not.
life of most of these meters we're looking at is?
Depends if somebody runs over it with a lawnmower.
Mayor, Councilman Brunner, I do not remember the life on the meters. Specifically, I will send you an email tomorrow with that.
So move.
Daniel,
Oh, Daniel.
are these the Badger units?
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, these are Badger meters. This is the final year that our contract with Hydro Specialties ends this calendar year, and so we will be rebidding out and may have Badger meters again, or may get something else. Unfortunately, I don't get any kickbacks from Badger meters.
That was my next question.
You were on it, Daniel. Okay, so I think there was a
I mean,
motion.
I did motion.
And there was a second?
No.
No
Second.
second. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Chingula.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Bauer. Reynolds.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 612 is an action item. This is to authorize the Waterworks Division to proceed with a letter of intent to purchase additional meter transmission units at the Aclara Technologies LLC contract price not to exceed the budget amount of $670,146 as approved in the FY23 budget.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
Chingula.
Yes.
Bauer. Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 613 is an action item. This is to authorize the mayor to sign a task order for the attached scope of work with Keller Associates for culvert replacement 10 Mile Creek at Franklin Boulevard project design services in the amount of $79,310. Time and materials not to exceed as approved in the FY22 budget.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Chingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Bauer. Brunner.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 614 is an action item. This is to authorize engineering to negotiate with the contractor for a contract price for the 16th Avenue South and First Street pipeline replacement project. This was approved in the FY22 budget.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Brunner.
Yes.
Chingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Bauer. Haverfield.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 615 is an action item, and there was information in our packet, and it is to authorize the change of use of the Republic Services rebate funds for the purchase of speakers for downtown Nampa, and this was changing from the Christmas lights to the speakers. And would you like Amber to present to us?
Oh, I'll just make a motion to approve, Mayor.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion or questions?
Mayor,
Yes.
so this is for speakers for music?
It is. So as was, I think, in the packet.
Not for Dale to use for his personal gain?
Yes. It's for Christmas music during the holidays, and it would transmit throughout the core of downtown.
Okay, how
And-
large of an area are we talking about?
Would you like to answer that question?
It was in the packet.
It was in the packet, and I don't remember off the top of my head.
I didn't see it in the, as far as the area.
Yeah, it was in there.
It was in there.
Mayor, members of the council, it's going to be Front Street, Front to First on 12th.
Right.
And then 12th to 13th, and then 13th to Front. So like that little block there.
So it will not extend to Second?
No.
Just, and Lloyd Square?
Yes, Lloyd Square.
And BID, Amber, BID is the one, I mean, they are all in favor of this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
They
that's-
wrote a
I-
letter
I-
of support. It should have been in the packet
And
as
if
well.
we don't need to go against Mr. Lind, I think that's a positive, so.
Yeah, they're supplying funds towards this as well.
Yes. And as you heard, they're supplying funds towards it also.
Okay.
And, yeah, it is their request. The cost of the lights just got very, very expensive with the flashing that was needed on the historic buildings and the electrical. And while that is still something that is desirable, what they were asking for is some easier wins for downtown. And so they're going to really look at something we've discussed is having the trees wrapped nicely for Christmas, the snowflakes up, the poles wrapped, and then adding the music to create a festive atmosphere. And then, of course, the speakers can be used at Lloyd Square and all year.
Yep, year round.
Yeah.
How about we get lighted speakers?
Lighted speakers.
Kill two birds with one stone.
There you go.
So it is, the intent is to have the speakers every day, or basically year-round, not just seasonal?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Is there a service that you tap into, or?
Yeah, like Spotify or Pandora.
Okay, so there's no copyright or anything infringement? Okay. 48,000?
Yep.
Okay, so it's under the 50.
It's under the 50, and then the BID will pitch in.
Thank you.
Okay, so there was a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Jingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Hammerfield.
Yes.
Bauer. Brunner.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
That concludes our new business items, and we've completed our public hearings. There is nothing under unfinished business. So we have completed our regular agenda, but I would stand for a motion to adjourn into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 742061J to consider labor contract matters authorized under Section 742061A, B, and B of Idaho Code.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call.
Brunner.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Bauer.